And next up to help us preview WrestleMania Weekend is Andy LaBarre. Andy, how's it going?
It's going good. Just, getting ready to preview some of these shows. I misunderstood the time differential between us and just woke up, so a little groggy, but I'll give you all my hot takes.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes you can fire them off early in the morning. Yeah, it is very difficult trying to manage. I just got done talking to somebody from Germany, and then somebody from Los Angeles, and now someone from Oregon and the West Coast. So it's been a weird day of trying to kind of figure out where everybody's at and where they're living. So.
Yeah, my current work schedule has been every day is different. My schedule keeps changing, so I just got confused. Anyway, no big deal.
That's all right. We're here. It's WrestleMania weekend. We can talk about this. So obviously, before we get into the cards that we're going to talk about, you want to get your plugs out of the way where people can follow you, read some of your work, do all that sort of fun stuff.
Sure, yeah. As you know, I'm kind of removed from a lot of the wrestling world right now, other than when we do some independent coverage on VOW. So I have some older reviews and older previews up there that aren't super relevant anymore, but I'll be writing a handful of previews for WrestleMania Weekend. So just keep your eyes on VOW for that as we get close to the shows this week, and probably some reviews after they happen. But you can follow me only basically at Voices of Wrestling, and then on Twitter at Trilly Robinson. That's TRILLY Robinson.
Yeah, this is your week to shine here as we do the previews for all these independent shows, and you're somebody obviously who keeps his finger on the pulse of the independents. So we're going to get there in a bit. We're going to talk about a bunch of shows here in this collection. Before we do that, I have asked everybody the WrestleMania Weekend histories and WrestleMania Weekend memories. So have you ever attended a live WrestleMania Weekend?
I haven't, and I don't know if you remember this, but last year would have been, I probably wouldn't have gone just because I had a wedding to go, but last year, so leading into 2020 in Tampa, that was the one that I was actually kind of planning on before COVID hit. In the VOW Slack and just with some people, we were really slowly kind of planning some. I was getting married that year, so it was going to be a bachelor party in Tampa, just get full of debauchery and just whatever we wanted in wrestling, and then kind of COVID started becoming a thing early on in the year before it even hit the U.S. I was like, maybe it's not going to happen. And then it didn't happen. So last year probably would have been my first one. But no, I've never actually been to a weekend just because of where I've lived or finances or things like that. But since I got back in wrestling about 6 years ago, I've been following them and watching most shows that happen around the weekend. So, yeah. It's a fun one usually. This weekend will be an interesting one, but
yeah, definitely.
Usually it's a big highlight.
Yeah, no, it definitely will be a fun one. And yeah, I totally get it. If you weren't able to go a few years ago, it seems a little tougher these days to try to, at least if you're going to try to fly across the country or whatever. Obviously this year with the pandemic, of course, it's still the big reason. But even then, yeah, it is hard to plan it out, to figure it out, to get there, to do all that sort of stuff. It was a little bit easier back in the day. It has become a little bit more difficult these days. But yeah, maybe at some point you can get there if they're in LA or I don't think they're coming to Portland anytime soon. So maybe Seattle.
Yeah, we only recently got WWE shows again. So
yeah, right. So it might be a tricky thing, but maybe LA or California or something like that one of these days. But
I regret not going to the San Francisco one, and then New Orleans. Everyone should have gone to that. But
yes,
Dallas was a reality, but I couldn't make it work at the time. So
yeah, that San Francisco one I always kick myself because we planned I wasn't as keenly aware of WrestleMania weekends at that time, and my wife and I planned a trip to San Francisco literally the week before WrestleMania weekend. I was just God damn it, what a mess. And I tried to justify going back there the next week, and then it was impossible to justify. So anyway, let's talk about these shows that we're getting into here. We are going to touch on a bunch of different shows. We're going to talk about Independent Wrestling TV's Family Reunion Part 1 and Part 2. We're also going to talk about ICW's No Holds Barred 11 and 12, and then also delve into Beyond Wrestling and For the Culture. So we're going to get into a lot of different ways here. Let's start out with the Independent Wrestling TV Family Reunion shows. Both of these taking place on Thursday, April 8th. Part 1 at 12 p.m. That is from the 81 Bay Brewery, where all the Independent Wrestling showcasing the independent shows will be. Family Reunion Part 2 coming up at 3 p.m. So they're doing both shots pretty much back-to-back here on Thursday. So what do you make of the scheduling of that? Do you like the idea of these shows all being in the same day, or would you like them to be a little more spread out if you had your way?
I think it's going to be, I haven't done my due diligence and seen kind of what else is happening at that time, but I think, the type of fan that is live, I actually listened to a podcast recently about, obviously, about GCW not selling as many tickets and kind of getting a little angry with their fans, which we can talk about. Like, they're not being supported properly. But I think the type of fan right now that IWTV has is going to be pretty dedicated and go to the shows that are, their showcase of the indies type shows. And so I think if you kind of just pile them in together with a little break in between, that won't really affect their ticket sales. And the people that are kind of are dedicated to them are going to, like myself, really are going to be focused on that channel and that their shows anyway. So and when we go through the card, it's kind of like a big introduction to some of the other shows and promotions that will be, having some other things happen through the weekend.
Yeah, I actually think that's a good point, because I think if you look, there's really not much else going on. They have that Thursday morning slot and Thursday afternoon slot pretty much to themselves. They have there's Jimmy Lloyd's Degeneration-F at 12 going up against this Family Reunion Part 1, but that's really two different fan bases, which we'll talk about here in a bit. Like your person that's going to really get into Degeneration-F is probably not going to be as into this Family Reunion thing. But I'm with you. Like what it's really cool is if you sit down and you start your WrestleMania weekend on Thursday, the first show out of the gates on that Thursday at 12 p.m. is the Family Reunion Part 1. We're going to talk about here in a bit. And like you said, there's a lot of people that, you're watching, and if you're not keenly aware of the independents, or if you're even casually aware, there's gonna be a lot of people that you've never seen before. So I think it is a cool way to kind of get things started and say, okay, here's some people I've never seen before. Part 2 then kind of adds a little bit more to that, adds a little bit more fun matches, and then you're pretty much set for the independent wrestling TV the rest of the week, because you're going to see a lot of the same names pop up a few times, and you'll be kind of ready and aware of those people. So yeah, they own that time. I mean, the only other thing is happening is the Degeneration-F, we said, is happening at 12, and then at 4 p.m. on that Thursday, you get the first day of the Acid Cup. But you can get an entire Part 1 of Family Reunion and maybe half of Family Reunion Part 2 before the Acid Cup even starts from the collective. So yeah, they really, I think it's actually pretty smart the way that they booked this and really took over that early Thursday time slot.
Well, I think initially Family Reunion Part 2 was scheduled for 4 p.m. and then they moved to 3. So maybe that's part of it. It could be other things happening in the brewery, but now they are running at least half of that second show unopposed as well. So it's good. And like I said, the shows are basically an introduction. Each match is sort of like showcases a different promotion that you can find on IWTV, which I think is a really smart way to do it. So it's going to be quite varied, hopefully, in the product and have different storylines coming in and whatnot.
So let's get into this Family Reunion Part 1. I'll read the card here real quick, and then we'll talk about some stuff that stands out to us. We got Johnny Butabi, D-Rogue, James C. versus Funny Bone, Nurse Ratchet. Big getting Sarah Paulson here for this show. It's a great get by Family Reunion here. And then Super Beast. We have Boomer Hatfield, Boar, and Erica Lee versus a very good professional wrestler, Travis Huckabee and Matt Mikowski. We got Dominic Guarini versus Robert Martyr. We have an IWA Mid-South Heavyweight Championship match here with Jay Chris defending the title against John Wayne Murdoch. We got Daniel Makabe versus Jaden Newman. Wheeler Yuta versus Adam Priest, and then our main event, which just got announced after the Cassandra Cup over the weekend, Lee Moriarty defending the Independent Wrestling Championship against Edith Surreal. So what of that show really stands out to you? I think it's a pretty awesome card with a lot of really cool singles matches here to kind of kick us off with WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, they've done a really good job. The one that has been added since I was mentioning to you before we started recording is from Old Wrestling, Judge Hugo Lexington Black versus Will Wrestle, which is a couple of a certain wrestler that his name might rhyme with Schmicky Schmaine Page.
Let's call him R. Shane Page. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's their Old Wrestling gimmicks, which I haven't thought about Old Wrestling in a number of years. So
I love that company, I miss that company. Sure. They come back.
They're in there as well, but so yeah, it's a really cool card. I wrote my preview. We haven't posted it on the website yet, and I'm pretty excited for a handful of matches on here. I mean, I think the IWTV Championship is a really fun match. Lee Moriarty and Edith Surreal, formerly known as Still Life Without Forgotten Pairs. They had a match 2 or 3 weeks ago as we record this on Enjoy Wrestling, which is MV Young's kind of like YouTube channel. And promotion, and it was really fun. It was not like, go out of your way to go see, but there's two people who are quite good on the mat. And I think, with a crowd here, however big the crowd is, with people watching at least, they should probably, ramp up. And this is Lee Moriarty's first defense of the championship. Just going to be kind of fun. They are just kind of grapplers that aren't, I think sometimes when we talk about like people who are grapple heavy, like a Timothy Thatcher style or like a grapple fuck style. We think about people who are super serious, like the Bloodsport style. And Moriarty and Edith Reuel are both not. They're more of the Chikara school or the Dragon Gate type school, the Torimon style, where it's a little bit more fun. They can be serious and they can be brutal, but it's a little bit more twist your opponent and roll around type grappling and mat work. And I really enjoy watching both of them. So excited to see that one. And then kind of a one that I'm a little, I guess, surprisingly into is Wheeler Yuta versus Adam Priest. Two people who I've historically not liked, who have always underdelivered to me. But Yuta's on this like incredible run so far in 2021 and a little bit in 2020 since he got into the peer title tournament in ROH. Kind of redefined his body over quarantine as well. He looks a lot more bulky.
Yeah, I agree.
He's just so he looks really great, and he's always been someone who had kind of like the moves and kind of like that babyface persona, but he's really also been someone. I write this in my review. Who you could always see like him thinking through a match, like he's someone who wasn't good in between spots, and he's really kind of. I'm guessing he's worked with Jonathan Gresham maybe with some of this training because he's starting to really become smooth on the mat. He's got a little heel edge to him lately. So he's been a lot of fun in Beyond and in ROH and some of these other places that he's been working.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about Yuta. Sorry not to cut you off, but yeah, he's somebody that I've always like kind of seen like, yeah, like there's something there. There's definitely potential there. The look the look in terms of like the gear and and just the overall like, but you were just like, yeah, he just needs to kind of look a little bit better. He just kind of had to get the body together and get his matches a little bit better. And the problem is like, and that's always an issue with young, talking about young wrestlers is, he debuts and he's like 21, 22 years old or whatever. I think he's just now like 24 years old or something. So
he might have been young. I think he debuted as a teenager. Like
you're right. Yeah, it might even be that far back. So yeah, we always kind of have this issue where we look at these guys and they're so young, and it's like, yeah, they're not going to be great. Like very few people are really good when they're 19. It's very difficult. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't know if it's. Yeah, I'm sure it's working with Gresham. I'm sure it's just working. It's just getting those reps. But yeah, I have really liked what I've seen from him in this year so far, and even in late 2020. So I'm really excited to see what he does here. And this is a great weekend for him and a great, showcase and what should be a pretty big match on the show. Like you said, that's kind of on its own for him to kind of make his arrival known. And I think the Lee Moriarty point that you mentioned as well, and it's really, the point works for both of them as well, that those are two people that like real hard, your deep indie people know about them. Your casual indie people might know of the names, but I don't think they really appreciate just how good both of them are. And I think Lee Moriarty in particular has a chance to just leave this weekend as like, oh yeah, he's like the best guy in the independents, like far and away. And Edith's really, not to take anything away from her as well, but like, I just think Lee is on that other level that I think after this weekend, people are just going to go, oh my God, that's like so far and away the best guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's been, over the last year, he's, to me, he was probably, I don't want to say he was the best wrestler of 2020, but between 2019 and 2020 and now, he's kind of been one of the most consistent or definitely the independent wrestler to keep your eye on probably more than anybody else. And that's been, handled by giving him the championship after Warhorse's like really long run. He's back when the original WrestleMania weekend in 2020 was going to happen. Everyone was like, he's poised to have the breakout year and have become MVP. That didn't happen. So when they did the collective show in the summer, it was like, everyone was like, oh, he is the MVP. He wrestled ACH. I don't remember who he wrestled, a bunch of good opponents. But he had like 4 really great matches over that course of those 6 collective shows or whatever. So he is just insanely consistent and definitely very, very exciting. And if the world was different, he'd be even bigger now,
Absolutely. And the one matches I'm a little curious on is this IWA Mid-South Heavyweight Championship match, Jake Chris versus John Wayne Murdoch. Do we know that are we getting a wrestling match? Are we getting a death match? What are we getting here? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, it'll probably be both. IW Mid-South is impossible to keep up with if you wanted to, and that's another story. It's you don't want to get too deep into IW Mid-South and supporting Ian, but, Chris has been the champion for almost a year now, and he defends the title on every show, and he's actually had some really cool defenses that I've seen in the past couple of years, or past year, excuse me. And Murdoch is obviously a past champion and an incredible deathmatch wrestler, and he's going to be on another couple of shows that we'll talk about today. Obviously, in his later years, it's not 2010 anymore. Or 2015 when he was kind of the big deal on the Mid-South circuit. But yeah, I think it'll be kind of more of a hardcore match, an TNA Impact style hardcore match. So you'll get some wrestling, but it'll mostly be a brawl. I would
probably
guess.
more plundery than just
exactly.
straight death match. It just might be they'll hit each other with shit type stuff. So
exactly, yeah. And then so I think it could be fun. Hopefully, we'll get some blood. But I do expect Chris to walk away with the title there, just because he's been on this tear in the company.
I think this is really cool. I mean, overall, I think this card is interesting because you have like your, and this is exactly how I would probably structure an indie card if I was doing it. Is I would have like, your multi-man bunch of people in matches early, and then singles matches, which is perfect. Like you kind of get you get a lot of people on the card, you get a lot of fun. Those could be matches that are boom, 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 bunch of stuff happening, and then you get like what I think is pretty varied match types. You have Lee Moriarty and Edith Surreal, as you mentioned. Daniel Makabe versus Jaden Newman will be wrestled in a very kind of grapple heavy style as well. You'll have Wheeler Yuta and Adam Priest, which will be probably a little bit more high flying. Jay Chris and John Wayne Murdoch, which will be a little bit more plundy brawling. And then Dominic Garrini versus Robert Martyr, where I don't know exactly where we're going to see that one go, like exactly where that's going to go, but I like the varied nature of this card. I think there's a lot to like, and if you're a wrestling fan, you'll find something to like, I think, on this show.
Have you seen Martyr wrestle?
I've seen clips, but I can't say I've watched an entire match.
Yeah, so he's kind of come up with this Paradigm Pro Wrestling group. So he's been working some of these UWFI style matches. So and I don't know if he's a student of Dom or anything like that, but it'll definitely be a grapple, the Dom style grapple. So it'll be on the mat, but also some stiff strikes and things like that. And Martyr is really good. He's undersized. He's kind of a small guy, but he's one of those super fiery, undersized, kind of insane guys. So he throws pretty good kicks and things like that. So it should be pretty fun because Dom's best when he's working on top and Martyr's undersized. So it'll be, kind of like a bully to a younger guy, and we get some good shine for Martyr, hopefully.
Looks like Martyr's only 20 years old. That's
he's
annoyingly young.
And he used to be a referee on some of the indies, and he's only recently transitioned into wrestling.
That's awesome.
So he's kind of fun though. Yeah.
So yeah, and that's really what this weekend I think is going to be really cool for and that's how I'm going to use this weekend. And a few of the people we've talked to that have done previews are really looking forward to these matches and these shows where like they don't know a bunch of people. Like they might not know Jaden Newman, they might not know Robert Martyr, they might not know a few of the Adam Priest, they might have only barely seen Wheeler Yuta or whatever. And it's a great opportunity to see a bunch of people. And that's I think what the IWTV is doing a great job of as kind of the alternative to GCW, where most people that are even casually following the indies or whatever. These GCW, you've probably seen every single one of these GCW people wrestle at some point, probably against the person they're wrestling this weekend as well, just because they've had so many shows and they've kind of been the de facto, top indie. But Independent Wrestling TV, I'm so glad to see them here this weekend because it's really going to open things up, and there's going to be just a whole lot of new names and new people that you've only seen once or twice or barely seen that you might become big fans of down the road.
Totally.
So.
Yeah, and keep your eyes open at Adam Priest, who is kind of just now putting it all together. To me, he's been someone who's been under-delivered forever, but he's got that kind of he's not Davey Richards, but he's got kind of that same build. Like he's super short, but kind of ripped, and he wrestles pretty intensely. And the last, I think, 2 months in particular, he's really put it all together. So should be pretty fun to see him on that. He's got quite a few matches this weekend.
So 3 p.m. we're going to jump to the Family Reunion Part 2 as well. So we said they kind of own this early afternoon here. The only thing this is up against is that Degeneration-F show. On Family Reunion Part 2, the card we have right now, Gary J versus Billy Starks. We got Dan Champion, Lucky 13, Jigsaw, and Eric Cannon. That's an old school match here. I love it. Versus a very good professional wrestling team. Daniel Makabe, Wheeler Yuta, a very good professional wrestler, and Trey Lamar. That's a hell of a person unit there. Damn. God, wow. Brian Keith versus Alex Kane. A C4 championship match. Daniel Garcia versus Kevin Coo. Cabana Man Dan and Derek Neal for the New South Heavyweight Championship. And then the New Texas Pro Championship. Mysterious Q versus Ryan Davidson. Now, this is an awesome show because this is really... Come watch everything that we can do on Independent Wrestling TV. Like, if this show delivers, they might get a lot of new fans, and a lot of people are going to check out these promotions that they've probably never heard of, and these wrestlers they've never heard of that are doing some pretty good work out there, especially with C4, with New Texas Pro, with New South Wrestling as well. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff there. What are you looking forward to on this show, and what can people expect if they're looking at this card and going, man, I don't know all those names, but it sounds interesting?
I'm looking forward to every match but one, really. And you can kind of guess what that is, but it might be fun. I think the real highlight in the match that I think potentially, if I looked at all of the WrestleMania cards that are happening, I think this match could potentially be the single match of the weekend, is Daniel Garcia versus Kevin Coo. I mean, maybe not if you include like the actual WWE matches or things like that, but Daniel Garcia, who is been on a tear for 2 years now at this point. He's been booked on random things, but he's probably one of the most technically gifted, most exciting, and people on the indies. And it's not going to be long before he is signed. I mean, we all thought he got signed by WWE like 2 months ago, but he did some work for them. We don't actually know what happened. So, he's one of the Buffalo Boys. He works with our boy Brandon, and he's fantastic. And then Coo, who was always had this great look, but couldn't quite put it all together. I think in the past 2020 has been really good for him as well, where he's really amped up kind of his bully behavior and has gotten extra brutal. And I write in my preview that he's maybe on the indies right now. He has maybe the highest floor of anyone who wrestles regularly. So he doesn't have the highest ceiling. I've yet to see a Kevin Coo match that's not true. He has one tag match that was a near match of the year for me a couple of years ago, but he rarely has like the match of the year type matches, but he is always delivering around that lower end of my notebook rating. So he's just a lot of fun to watch, and these two have never had a singles match together, and so two of the better strikers in the indies, two of the people who are quite mean to their opponents in the way that I enjoy watching. Should be a real blast to watch them to go at it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this match. I mean, this is one that definitely, and Koo is somebody who's starting to grow on me a little bit more. I've liked a lot of what I've seen of him as of late, after being slightly disappointed from what I've seen in years prior. And Daniel Garcia is just fucking incredible. He's awesome. He and Lee Moriarty to me are like kind of the 1 and 2 of, or the 1A, 1B of like top dudes on the indies right now. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this match, and it being for a championship, it being a straight singles match, it being on this show where I think everybody knows that this is a real cool showcase for independent wrestling TV in general, as a bunch of their promotions are coming with their best matches all in one show. I mean, it to me one of the better cards of the entire weekend, one of my more anticipated matches of the entire weekend, just because there is just more stakes. It's not just, hey, here's a match versus this person versus I mean, there's titles on the line, there's feuds, there's stuff like that. So I really like the approach that Independent Wrestling TV took with this show. For people that maybe don't know, the Mysterious Q and Ryan Davidson and Cabana Man Dan versus Derek Neal. What can you tell us about those two matches? Because those are people that I'm aware of some of the names. Obviously, Cabana Man Dan I'm aware of, but some of the other names I know I've seen matches here and there, but I can't say that I'm like super aware of either. So what can we anticipate from those two?
Yeah, so I only recently started watching New Texas Pro kind of into anticipation for the weekend. Their shows have been, they're on IWTV. They're also, but their actual shows, I think, that they're running the weekend are running with the fake GCW, the non-game changer GCW weekend, whatever that stretch.
We
of shows
run
is
this
called.
Town, baby.
Yeah, we run this town. So I think actual New Texas Pro shows are happening there, which is interesting because not as part of the showcase of the indies. And they're kind of a fun promotion. They definitely don't have the talent of some of something like a Southern Underground Pro or Action Wrestling or things like that on IWTV. But they have a couple of guys who are really good, and they get a handful of some of the top workers like AJ Gray and things like that, and even Lee Moriarty that come down and work. Mysterious Q is their champion. He's kind of this big buff black dude who wears a Hayabusa mask. So it's a pretty incredible look. It's maybe a little out of time for 2021, but that's kind of what's fun. And he does some high flying moves. He's a little sloppy in the 3 or 4 matches I've seen of his. So maybe a little bit tries things that are a little out of his wheelhouse. But when he does like land things that he's trying, it's pretty awesome to see. Ryan Davidson I've actually only seen once, and that was on a new Texas Pro show. And I might have called it New South earlier, but New Texas Pro. Ryan Davidson, I've only seen him on the undercard, and he's just kind of like a big burly guy. He comes out wearing like furs and has a handful of tattoos. So I think this will be kind of more of a brawling, big power bomb type match. Could be fun. I think it'll probably just be a little filler match on this card where we have like some elite workers in the United States going. But yeah, I don't think it'll be bad by any means. I mean, just kind of be like a solid big guy wrestling match. Cabana Man Dan versus Derek Neal. If you're following New South, which I sort of am, I'm behind. This is a big time match. Cabana Man Dan is past champion for New South Heavyweight Championship, or New South Wrestling. He used to hold the title. Derek Neal's been the champion for a little bit now, and this is going to be like small man versus big man. But I don't know. Have you seen Cabana Man Dan like in the last 2 months?
Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, no, I saw him maybe a little bit a few years ago, but I've not seen him in the last few months.
Rich, he looks incredible. You gotta get into it. He's
a body guy type thing.
Yeah, he's like I mean, he's not Yes, he's definitely toned up. He's grown his hair out. He's grown his facial hair out. So he's looking like this. He's always obviously he's like probably like 5'6", 5'7". You know, he's a small guy, but he's looking like ripped. Like he looks like a WCW power plant like guy. He he's ripped. He looks mean, and he's been working not necessarily heel, but kind of like you turned your back on me style, like angry. So he's been working extra stiff, which he was already a pretty stiff worker, even though he had this fun gimmick. So he's going to take it to Derek Neal. Derek Neal's been around forever. I'm not part of the Nashville scene or that Midwest scene or anything like that. So I never saw him until recently, but he's a bigger guy. I mean, he's kind of what you would imagine half of the Southern or Midwestern indie guys to look like in, the year 2000. Big long hair, big burly guy, high trunks. And he's actually a lot of fun. He's been on, according to everyone else, he's been on like a pretty good championship run. He's getting booked a little bit more. So this match has a chance to be really, really good. Definitely going to be a brawl heavy match though.
And then, as we mentioned, the rest of the card, some pretty good showcases here. I like the Downey's Irish Drinking Team, Dan Champion, Lucky 13, Jigsaw, and Eric Cannon. And then, we got to talk about this team. I mean, this is what a collection of talent here. Daniel Makabe, Wheeler Yuta, a very good professional wrestler, and Trey Lamar. I mean, that is very difficult to find 4 better workers and put them in the same team together. That sounds awesome. So. Yeah,
and this will be the main event, I believe. It's what they're coining it as the main event. So you got kind of like the stars of yesterday on the independent with Jigsaw, Eric Cannon, Lucky 13, Dan Champion versus.
Makes me feel very old. That's
today.
Eric Cannon's the star of yesterday. But I'm like,
he's
God.
He's been around forever. You know, he's
I know.
in those early DJ USA shows and just everything.
I think I'm like the exact same age as him, so that makes me very. I'm like, oh man. It's that should might be a lot of fun, and they both are kind of teams that are composed of 4 people who wrestle very differently. I mean, you have the power guy, the high flyer, technical kind of all-rounders. It's just it should be quite fun. I wrote in our Slack, I was wishing they were doing like a traditional like Chikara Cybernetico or something like that. That would be cool.
We probably don't have 90 minutes to share or to spare for this type of match, but it's it should be a lot of fun. I think it'll probably go a little bit lighthearted. They're not going for a title, and it's kind of like a send people home happy type match, but definitely interesting to see how the 8 guys mix.
And then sorry, go ahead.
I've written in reviews, but the not Boomer, not Dasher, whatever. A very good professional wrestler. He is if he changes his name and
he needs a very better name than that.
Yeah. I think genuinely, even more than Lee Moriarty and maybe Daniel Garcia, I think he is the most gifted and probably, for my taste, probably the best wrestler on the American independents. And he had a handful of matches in 2020 that were unbelievable. For me, like I was like, oh, I never saw this really in Chikara, even though he had some great matches there. And I think he has a chance that if he wanted to, he could have a real standout weekend. So hopefully he does.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating because the name gives a presentation that you're going to see kind of like a, this kind of haha and wink wink nudge nudge, and then he goes in the ring and he's just like great. He's just like really really good. And that's one of the thing that was always a Chikara staple was like. Yeah, they might have funny gimmicks in the bell ring, and they would be like tremendous pro wrestlers. Because for whatever you think about Mike Quackenbush, he's a great trainer and trained some really, really talented wrestlers, some really guys that got it. But I'm right with you. I hope that sometime in this year it can be a nickname. That's fine, but like being the name that's on a poster is just tough. I mean, it immediately gives you this idea in this presentation of what he's going to be, and it's unfair because I'm right with you. I think he's absolutely tremendous and really could stand out, but it's just so hard to book a world title main event with a very good professional wrestler versus X or whatever. So it's just hard,
as a reviewer, it's very hard to write his name.
It gets a little annoying.
Abbreviate it. Yeah.
Well, I've seen a lot of people, and I think you even you're just like, I'm just going to call him Dasher. Whatever. Fuck it. Screw it. I'm just going to call him Dasher because it's just a lot easier. Real quick, we'll talk about this match because this will be one of many times that we'll say this name, but Gary J versus Billy Starks on this match. So kind of a showcase match for Billy. I think there's probably a better use for Gary J, but I mean, what do you say about this match?
Yeah, what I'll say is they've built it up a little bit with promos and some hype from St. Louis Anarchy. One of the things that was you and me and Rich and a couple other people were so excited about last year was that Spirit of Spalding tournament. I mean, you guys even covered it on the Flagship.
Yeah, right.
Before, I mean, we all knew like this isn't going to work. This isn't going to last because it would have taken the whole year, and with COVID, that wasn't going to work. And it lasted one show, which is unfortunate. And both these people were in that tournament, and they're kind of I don't know. building this up, but Gary J's whole gimmick, especially in St. Louis Anarchy, is that he's this brutal guy who just chops everybody to death. You know, he can take all this pain and he can give all this pain. He's always kind of the skinny guy, but he's this tough, you know, super driven guy. And Billy, you know, I like a lot of people, I work hard not to bury her, but I really have not a lot of time for her. I think, you know, I'm guessing they're friendly behind the scenes, and so they probably can work out something that's pretty competent. But you know, it's not going to. I imagine it's not going to be the type of Gary J match that, you know, we used to see against him, with him against, like, you know, Jake Parnell, Warhorse, or any of these other brutal Gary J matches. You know, when he would wrestle like Ethan Page or anything like that. And
right.
so we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I also don't hope he doesn't destroy her, because she is still a teenager.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, even, you know, in one breath, it's like, yeah, I kind of hope we don't see the normal Gary J match. And it stinks that you say that. But then if we saw the real Gary J match, it would also be like, man, do I really want Gary J just like chopping the ever living fuck out of a 16-year-old? Like, it's weird. It's strange. And it's the better that we just move on. I mean, since it is SLA, I wish that we could have gotten, you know, just somebody else. They have a handful of, you know, someone like Fred Yehai's not even booked on anything this weekend that I've seen. Yeah, is that by choice or just? I
have no idea.
You never know with Yehai. He is the best never booked guy ever, and I'm never sure if he doesn't want to be booked or if nobody calls him or he doesn't call them back. I don't know. It's been a mystery for 5 years now, and I don't know if we'll ever quite know.
Right. Yeah. There's a handful of guys that are, you know, some of my very favorite workers on the indies that don't have any matches. And again, it could be their own choosing due to the finances or just not wanting to travel to, you know, if they're taking the pandemic serious and things like that. You know, one of my favorite wrestlers on the independents, Big Beef Gnarls Garvin, has no bookings at all during WrestleMania weekend. And he's kind of this up and coming star. And I don't know if you've seen him, but he works like Baby Stan Hansen or Baby Vader. He's you know, he's a lot of fun, and it could be a lot of fun and a ton of. He's got like a good
Twitter personality too, which is strange because usually that's like all you. I mean, today these days, like, hey, good at Twitter, cool. Like, we'll book you. But it's very strange. I thought for sure
nothing.
I thought for sure he'd be a shoo-in to get involved in this weekend, and he's just not. So I hopefully by choice, but we'll.
Yeah, and then one match to keep. I mean, we were mentioning everything, but Brian Keith versus Alex Kane. That's one to keep your eyes on. Brian Keith works New Texas Pro, but he has this awesome look. He comes out in like a Western Mexican style poncho and like a duster hat, kind of like a gambler hat, and then he disrobes and he looks like he's got like just black trunks and gloves and just looks like this tough guy that's going to beat you up. And Alex Kane is the suplex assassin, and he actually does pull out some really cool suplexes against big guys and things like that. So it's just two up and coming guys. Neither of them are necessarily super young, but that have been kind of showcased around, and so this could be one that surprises a lot of people and is a lot of fun.
We'll move now to 8 p.m. on Thursday. This is one of the coolest cards, I would say, on the entire weekend. One of the more unique and fun-looking cards. This is from 81 Bay Brewery, so also on Independent Wrestling TV here. No Holds Barred, Volume 11, Then and Now. The card is John Davis versus Dom Guarini, Dan Maff versus Calvin Tankman, Justin Kyle versus Bruce Santee, Jake Chris versus Nolan Edward, The Rejects versus New Jack and Carnage Crew. I love it. Steve Madison versus Lee Moriarty, Brandon Kirk versus Danny Demento, Tony Deppen versus Daniel Garcia, and a special appearance by the Black Nature Boy himself, Scoot Andrews. I love this card. First, I will ask you the chances that New Jack actually shows up. Are we high, low? Like, we're...
I think he shows up. Whether he works, that's another thing. I mean, he might hit someone with a garbage can or something like that. I mean, but not even him. I mean, when's the last time you saw DeVito and oh my God, what's the other guy's name in the Carnage Crew?
DeVito and
HC Loke.
Yes, yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing we're not getting Justin Credible.
I was going to say Justin Credible. Masada's there though. They could call Masada. He's around, but I don't know about Justin Credible. So.
I mean, yeah, that's a hilarious match. ICW's done a couple of these. I have a real love-hate relationship with ICW where, I mean, in the Omakase Awards last year, I voted them worst promotion just because of various things, and I thought some of the things that we hate or we dislike about GCW they were doing at a worse clip. But then they also pull out some like incredible matchups or some really fun gimmicks. So there's like this internal conflict on whether or not I like them or I hate them. This is definitely a card that I really, really like. These older. The Vin guys, the guys that are deathmatch or indie workers of the past, people like Bruce Santee, John Davis, Carnage Crew, etc., versus some of the newer guys on the scene. It's a lot of fun. I wish that they could announce a match for Scoot Andrews. I love Scoot Andrews.
Yeah.
One of
Do
my,
we know, is he not going to wrestle? Is he just, because they say special appearance, so I guess he's probably not, right then.
I'm guessing he's not, no. But yeah, I mean, I was not obviously watching independent wrestling or going to shows in the East Coast in the early 2000s, but he's been one of my favorite discoveries for me going into the IWTV archives. And I mean, he's on every show. I mean, he must have been the busiest worker on the independents from 2000 to 2003.
Yeah. He was a star. He was a superstar. I remember in the early days, like it was him and like a bunch of other guys I would read like early, PWIs or whatever. And they were just like, these are the next generation of guys. This is it, and yeah, he was working everywhere, constant on like your Sunday Night Heats and your Jacked or whatever, and everybody was kind of waiting for that moment.
I guess I knew him for WWE, but like seeing like showcase matches on the independent, like ECWA or anything like that, it's fun to go back and see that.
Yeah, he was a lot in MCW, which was around me, and I actually saw him a bunch of times live in my early independent days when I didn't even know what I was really watching or whatever. King of the Indies type stuff. He had that match with Donovan Morgan on the one King of the Indies that I always remember because Donovan Morgan was another name. So yeah, he is just such a cool throwback to many, many years ago. But it looks like he hasn't wrestled since November of 2019. Yeah, so it has been a while for him. So I maybe he's just like, look, I don't really want it, but I'll show up anyway. But yeah, it'd be cool to see him getting something physical and see what he can do. But he's like 49 or 50 at this point, so it's totally fair that he's not in ring shape and ready to go. So
yeah, I mean, Two Cold Scorpio's wrestling again, I think this weekend, so we can make it work for these older guys.
Absolutely, yeah. And is there any, we don't have to go match by match here because this is really just, like you said, it's kind of a fun little, haha showcase thing with like, older indie guys versus newer indie guys. And I don't mean like comedy stuff. I just mean like it's hard to really, what are you going to say about John Davis versus Dom Guarini? It's just like, hey, here's John Davis. He's an old guy. And here's Dom Guarini. He's a younger guy. So they're going to fight each other. But, is there something that really stands out to you on the show other than we'll talk about Deppen versus Garcia because I think it's a really cool match as well.
Yeah.
But is there any of the other matches that really stand out to you or ones that we should really look out for or anticipate?
Well, this will be interesting because it's a no holds barred show that's not explicitly a death match show. I mean, you're going to have some technical wrestling and some brawling, which they do a little bit in their pit fighter shows, which you previewed, I think, with Paul or whoever. But it's those are in the UFC style or the Lions Den style pit with weapons, and this one will definitely have weapons in some of the matches. But there's going to be some technical matches in here as well and some brawling matches. So it's a little bit interesting in that regard. I think, one person to keep your eye on, I don't know if you've talked about this in other previews, but Nolan Edward, he's got some of the most bookings around the whole weekend. And he's, I think, more than almost anybody, he's kind of the most hyped indie wrestler right now. I think he's not necessarily on the level of Moriarty or Garcia or people like that, but he is working everywhere. And he's getting booked in some of the bigger independent promotions too, and he can work like any style. So I think he's maybe more than anybody, whether or not he's the best. I think he's the one, and I think he's like 21. He's the one most primed to, reach that next level and get signed somewhere. So if he can work deathmatch, he can work technical, he can work all these different things, and he's a blast. He's got a really good character work too. So he's kind of a little prodigy, I think, and should be a lot of fun to see him through the weekend. I think that the main event, the Rejects versus New Jack and the Carnage Crew. So Rejects is Reed Bentley, John Wayne Murdoch, and Akira. So we'll see. Hopefully it's brutal and it's weird. I mean, it's not going to be good, but it's going to be just kind of a spectacle, hopefully. I'm actually really stoked for Dan Maff versus Calvin Tankman. I've kind of soured on Tankman. He's kind of been exposed, I think, as being a little one note as he's worked like longer matches or things like that. And Dan Maff is obviously not young anymore, but Dan Maff has been really good on ICW No Holds Barred shows because he is still a big bully. And so you have these two giant guys going at it. I think that will be a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Edward there, and he's a guy that we've talked about a lot in these previews. Is a guy who can do a bunch of different stuff, can do deathmatch, will do. I mean, there's every booking that we've had. There's almost a different style. Like this, we talked about shows where he's definitely doing a deathmatch, and this one where I don't think he would be. Maybe a little bit more of a plunder brawl with Jay Chris, or just a straight wrestling match they can do as well. So yeah, it's gonna be a big weekend for him, and he has a real chance to leave as like one of the people that a lot of people coming in didn't know about, but now at the end of it will know about him and really appreciate him. And he's got a lot of opportunities to do it throughout the week. So let's jump to the next.
He's working like
he's
working like Bloodsport and stuff like that. So it's
he's doing everything. Yeah, he obviously offered himself up to everybody. I mean, he's doing any deathmatch show. He's doing Bloodsport. He's doing. I mean, it's amazing how much he got into these No Peace Underground stuff. He's traveling all over the place for these shows. So we'll move on now to the next show. On our list, we're going to talk. We'll stick with ICW. Actually, let's just do that to make things a little bit easier. So we will jump now all the way till Saturday at 8 p.m. That's probably the easier way to do it instead of going by chronological here. We'll do Saturday at 8 p.m. Sorry, ICW No Holds Barred Volume 10. Farewell to the Pawn Shop. Here, this is obviously from 81 Bay Brewery. Also from Independent Wrestling TV. We got Brandon Kirk versus Alex Ocean. Neil Diamond Cutter versus Jeff King. Atticus Kogar versus Reed Bentley, Dan Maff versus Nolan Edward, Shane Mercer versus Schlack, John Wayne Murdoch versus Eric Ryan, and Satu Jin versus Ruben Steele. So I admit, I know some of these names. I don't know a lot of these names. What can we expect from this show? This one seems like we're going to get a little bit... This is not going to be the same as the then and now. This is going to be a little bit more brutal and a little bit more plundery deathmatchy.
This will be 100%. King of the deathmatch style deathmatch. I mean, some of these ICW No Holds Barred shows are the bloodiest shows you'll see on the independents. I mean, this will be 100% not necessarily your style of deathmatch. I know you've grown to like deathmatches a little bit more in the last couple of years, but this is going to be classic like CCW, not even XPW, but like just kind of some gross stuff for sure. So, a lot of glass, a lot of light tubes, a lot of doors and things like that. And I don't know if you've seen, but I'm assuming they'll still keep it. But these shows with ICW No Holds Barred, they replace the ring ropes with chains. So
yes,
that's even another kind of fun thing. So it's definitely, I'm not familiar with every name here. You got a mixture of some older deathmatch guys and some people who only work exclusively like in areas of the East Coast. But you do have some of the bigger names still that travel to these different promotions. People like John Wayne Murdoch, Eric Ryan, Reed Bentley, again, Nolan Edward. Alex Ocean's been really making his name recently. He's not the best, but he is definitely insane. And you got Shane Mercer, who's a lot of fun in the deathmatch style. Obviously, he can work a lot of different styles as well. Schlack is kind of he's not John Wayne Murdoch's the main guy of ICW No Holds Barred. Like, he's undefeated. I think he's like 11-0 or something like that. But Schlack is kind of like the face of the promotion, which is one of the issues I have with them. But it's going to be probably the bloodiest show of the weekend, I would guess. So there you go.
So that is ICW No Holds Barred Volume 12, Farewell to the Pawn Shop. That's 8 p.m. as we said on the Saturday. So now we're going to jump back to Thursday again to talk about our next show here. This isn't the Collective. This is obviously on Fight TV from the Cuban Club. Be on the Fight TV package as well. For the Culture, one of the more popular shows of the anticipated last WrestleMania weekend, then obviously got moved over to the Collective thing in Indianapolis over the late summer, early fall. But really the standout show, I thought, of that entire weekend. And now coming here in... And I wanted to ask you this question before we go over the card itself. Thursday, April 8th at 11:59 p.m. I think they did them a little dirty here. I don't know whose choice this was, and obviously if they were going to be on Thursday, I understand that you maybe didn't want to go up against TakeOver and you didn't want to go over Bloodsport, but I think you got to find a better time for the Culture than midnight on Thursday. I mean, I just think the card itself, the concept of the card, the entire idea behind For the Culture, I don't know. I just don't love it on this time. To me, I find a 7 p.m. slot for this. I find a 5 p.m. slot or something like that. I don't bury this thing at like midnight. I just don't think that's a great idea in my mind. What do you make of that?
It sucks. I mean, it's one of those missteps that GCW makes so many times. That's just, to me, it's clueless and it's borderline cruel or tokenism. They are, they get in a lot of trouble for political and social things. Kind of co-opting Black culture in particular, and it just kind of feels like, oh, we should do this, in the year of 2021, where we have all these other promotions that are showcasing the amazing Black wrestlers around the country and around the world. We were the first ones to kind of do this show, and here we're going to put it where no one's going to watch it. It's stupid. It's they continue to take these rapper names for their shows and album names for their shows, and then they kind of co-opt the culture and they take this thing that could be this amazing experience socially and culturally, as it was in the Collective. That was still the highlight show of that weekend, I think. And they just kind of shoehorn it in, and there's like no hype around this one this time, and it really sucks because it's a pretty great card.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and yeah, I look at obviously it's tough to find time slots here. I mean, obviously with Thursday you have Bloodsport, and that's one of the more popular things. I think Bloodsport could work at like a 10 p.m. or whatever, but whatever. If you want to have that at 8, I get that for Thursday. To me, though, like, Friday looks like a great opportunity to find a way. Yes, I know you have spring break and you want that, but, like, I think spring break can start at fucking 10 or 11. I mean, it's spring break. Like, people are used to watching spring break at 3 a.m. and stuff. I don't have a huge issue with moving that. The ESSA Cup Day 2, that's at 4 p.m. That, to me, seems like another good slot to put this in. Like, anything but midnight, anything but, like, 10 a.m. or midnight is about what I would do for the culture. And, yeah, it just sucks. Yeah, it's a really terrible time to have it on, and it's a weekday too. If it's a Friday at midnight, I even accept that a little bit more because it's like, all right, look, you've anticipated, you've stuck with it. Friday or Saturday, you're like, all right, look, wrestling, I'm gonna watch wrestling all night. There's so many of us. Like, even if I wanted to, I literally cannot watch this thing live. Like, there's just no way for me to do it because I have to be up at 3 hours later. Like, I'm not gonna do that. So it just sucks.
It's funny when we're talking, in the work Slack there, the VOW Slack, when we're all live streaming these types of things or buying different things, you can tell, like, even if a show that doesn't have a very exciting card, if it's on at 3 in the afternoon on a weekend or whenever, we're all talking about it, even though none of us follow the promotion.
Right.
So a card that we're super excited for, like For the Culture or something like that, none of us are talking about it because none of us are awake. It's just like, maybe Liam over in Australia is awake or something like that.
Right.
It's a different, it's just kind of it's just a bummer. And it's, and we've had in the last week, we've had this GCW versus certain people, talking about, selling tickets or not selling enough tickets. And you have AJ Gray kind of coming out looking like an ass in his tweets, which isn't the first time. And it's just like, yeah, you kind of got screwed by having the show at this time as well. Like, who's going to come to that? It's just it's a tricky thing,
Absolutely. Yeah. It seems like such a good idea that they have for the show and a really cool concept, and then it just seems like it's so lazily done. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just put you guys on whenever. And it's just to me there has to just be a little bit more care to this because I think it is cool and like, even if aside from whatever, it's a really good card. Like, aside from any of the cultural aspects of it, it's a damn good card. And they worked their ass off to get this card together because here's what you have here again: 11:59 from the Cuban Club for the culture. Rich Swann versus Too Cold Scorpio. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's awesome! Like, oh my God, Lee Moriarty versus Leo Rush. Like, those 2 matches right there. Like, if the card was just that, if the card was just those 2, it's already great. But then it just gets you Brian Keith versus Darius Lockhart. AJ Gray versus JTG, Think and Juicy versus Fire and Flava, Myron Reed versus Ken Broadway versus Calvin Tankman versus Andy Brown, and then Trey Lamar versus Eli Knight. I mean, that is, strip everything away from it, that's one of the best cards of the entire weekend. Like, even without the idea that we're trying to do something to shine a light on minority wrestlers, it's like, even then it's just a really great card. So it makes it even more maddening that it's stuffed into a time slot that no one has an opportunity to really watch or go to.
Yeah, what I'm really hoping, if nothing else, is that they can. I know GCW is not keen on running big long stories other than around Ricky Shane Page, but is that something happens here that can really be brought into their main product? Because if this is just like a one-off again, or a two-off, I guess, and it doesn't have any kind of relevance in the main GCW shows throughout the year, it's just, that makes it even a bigger bummer. Because you have wrestlers here who don't work GCW, who could be like really awesome with their promos and their wrestling style, like Darius Lockhart or JTG even, who obviously, is a WWE guy, but he's so much bigger than everybody else. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that For the Culture show, in Indianapolis, but he looked incredible. Yeah, he looked incredible. And he had the most insane finishing move, was basically a razor's edge, but into a neck breaker. It was awesome. So it's just like, I don't know. It's just this way where this show could be really, really good. I think there's a chance for 4 of these matches to make Notebook, with Rich Swann versus Scorpio, Lee Moriarty versus Leo Rush, Brian Keith versus Darius Lockhart, and AJ Gray with JTG could all be, real good matches. The scramble match could be good. Ken Broadway is always a little bit of a step behind, I think, in the scramble matches, but could be a lot of fun. I'm not familiar with Eli Knight. Trey Lamar's obviously got a lot of bookings, and Eli Knight, I think, is another younger guy who a little bit of a high flyer. So yeah, it just could be a lot of fun. So I probably won't be able to watch this one live, but definitely will be watching it eventually.
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff. And Too Cold Scorpio versus AR Fox from the For the Culture in September was like my favorite match of the entire weekend. So yeah, if you think, Too Cold Scorpio, he's a little old, like, no, that dude could still go, and he's an awesome wrestler still to this day. So yeah, that Rich Swann Too Cold Scorpio should be great, and those guys obviously know the moment and understand their what they're doing here. So I think that they'll really bring the good. So that's For the Culture. Yeah, very disappointing. Sorry, go ahead.
Did you watch the Darius Lockhart promo? I think I linked some people to. He cut a promo.
Yes, I did.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like 2.5 minutes, and it's probably my favorite promo I've seen around this weekend or just in a long time in general. And he's one of those guys that's been around forever and has had kind of like a Black Lives Matter, super, this basically a for the culture type gimmick for years, and he hasn't been booked outside of a handful of places in the East Coast forever, and he's a really good wrestler. He's been a guy who's been poised breakout for a while, so I'm hoping that I think this is the only thing he's booked for, which is kind of what the promo's about. So
exactly,
it's a bummer.
Yeah, well, it's just like, especially like, and then we'll move on to the Beyond show here, but yeah, especially when the whole concept of the show is supposed to be, shining a light on these minority wrestlers that you probably don't get the same opportunities that they deserve or whatever, and then you stuff them at 11 p.m. on a Thursday. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's so it couldn't be more on the nose. And it's just it's unbelievable.
Yeah,
never change indie wrestling. So move on to Beyond Wrestling here, our final one we're going to talk about here. This is Saturday, April 10th at 4 p.m. This is running up against, you have the Collectives running Planet Death at 3 p.m. Unsanctioned Pro is also running at 7 p.m. And presumably, we don't know right now when WrestleMania is going to start. But do we actually not know when WrestleMania is going to start, even though it's next week?
Rich, I could not.
I honestly don't. I really don't know if we know when WrestleMania is going to start. I don't think they've actually announced that yet.
Literally, the only thing I know about WrestleMania is that Daniel Bryan got shoehorned into the main event again.
Yeah, well,
which is great for me, but yeah.
I honestly don't know if we know when it's going to start. Well, whatever. Even if by the time I record this, everybody knows when it starts. This might run up against WrestleMania. It might not. We don't know. But anyway, Beyond Wrestling Time Capsule.
I guess they have very different audiences.
Yes, yeah. I think your normal WWE Fed fans. This is a very strange card. We're going to talk about it here in a bit. Beyond Wrestling Time Capsule, 4 p.m. Is also going on from 81 Bay Brewery. We have Facade versus Dave Cole, Gary J versus Herzog, Anthony Stone versus Chase Burnett, Dan Barry versus Eric Corvus. Also announced participants as of this recording. I'm sure these people, well, presumably these people will all get matches, but we don't know. Allison K, Anthony Stone, Besties in the World, Eric Corvus, Faith in Nothing, which is Ricky Shane Page and Vincent Nothing, Island Kings, Jaka and Sean Maluda, the Jollyville Fuckets, Nasty Russ and T-Money, and Sugar Dunkerton also announced for this show. This is a very strange card, Andy, and I need you to try to explain it to me.
I think it's people who used to work Beyond. I mean, essentially, it's kind of the non-main eventers and some main eventers from the early 2010s Beyond. And so I wasn't watching wrestling at all at that time. So some of these people haven't been working regularly, or if they have, they've been in tiny little indies. So even those who are praised or I've seen getting praised on Twitter, I'm not super familiar with. So yeah, it's an interesting show. I think it's kind of a fun throwback show. I think it also, because of the nature of it and some of the names involved that I do know, it has potential to be one of the worst shows of the weekend. I don't think that's likely. I think because most of the things will be worked as straight wrestling matches, whereas you have some of these, no ring shows or hot girl shit or things like that, which could be pretty bad. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's just going to be, for someone like me who's trying to go back and watch some of these early 2010s indies, it's going to be a little bit of a discovery, because I know some of these guys now, but I didn't know them 10 years ago or things like that. It does have everyone's favorite wrestler, Facade, in an announced card. So he'll get close to breaking his neck at some point. But I have no idea. I wish that they had the matches lined up more completely, since we're only a couple of days out from this now. I am excited to see the return of the Island Kings, Jaka and Sean Maluda. Anytime Jaka shows up on the card, what an exciting time. I wish that we could get him on more things and wrestling more regularly, because, you remember when his last little run in Evolve, like, he was, amazing. And you want to see him on things. And I don't know if you saw the picture going around.
Yeah, he's like a totally different body. He doesn't even look like the same human being. He looks incredible.
Ripped. And then the Jollyville Fuckets. Now, being a Chicago guy, have you seen the Jollyville Fuckets live?
I haven't, which is it's strange. So I don't know. Do you know what promotions they usually work in? I
know
work freelance a little bit more, right?
Yeah, freelance, AIW. They don't work very regularly. So they work some of the other Midwest indies, and then some of the East Coast ones. But they don't work a ton. So yeah, they worked Glory Pro when I was reviewing that when that first started. Rest in peace. Obviously it still exists, but when it was a different promotion. But they are,
You know, I think I know. I think I haven't seen them live, but I definitely saw them on Old Wrestling as I'm looking now. They were the Jollyville
Yeah.
Jeepers, Clean and Jerk, which I do remember them from that. So yeah, I have seen them there, but I have not seen them live, unfortunately.
So Nasty Russ is this kind of like, he looks like he works at like your auto shop. He's just like this skinny white guy, kind of gangly. And T-Money, I mean, he looks like Monty Brown or something. I mean,
Yes.
and he works like that.
Yeah.
Like he's incredible. But Nasty Russ is actually really, really fun and does like cool high flying moves. And they're one of my favorite tag teams, going. They just work like twice a year basically where they make tape. So, I'm really excited to see them, and I'm hoping that we get them versus Besties in the World somehow. That would be an incredible match, I think. So, hoping for that. But yeah, it's just going to be a weird show. Sugar Dunkerton has been on a tear on some of these Southern Indies lately. He's really cutting these promos, and coming off of AEW and stuff like that. Is what was his name? Pineapple P or whatever it was called.
Pete, Pineapple Pete.
He's been cutting awesome promos and kind of almost like a cult leader on some of these things like Action and SUP and some of these other promotions. And so it's just fun to see this, and this is more of a discovery type show for me of seeing some of these guys and people to go back to.
Absolutely, yeah. There's some really cool stuff. The names that you've never seen before or whatnot, and some good opportunities to check out some people that you maybe haven't seen in a long time or have never seen. So yeah, an interesting show from them. And I'll give it up to Beyond. They always try to come with something different and something unique on WrestleMania weekend. And this is certainly, I mean, a lot of the names we said there are not booked on anything else. Like they're coming for this show, and this is about it. So and I always appreciate that. Yeah,
it's kind of exciting because I mean Beyond just had their back show as we record a couple of nights ago. They've been running these signature series shows, which have a tag team tournament, and they had the round robin tournament. But their roster has been depleted over the past year. Their 2020 roster, and Beyond is a company that's really good when they can build people up that you haven't really heard of or that are from smaller indies. And so their comeback show, it was pretty good. But their talent isn't the same as it was before the pandemic when they're coming off of uncharted territory and some of this stuff, and with the wake of Me Too and some of this, or what was the wrestling one? Anyway, speaking out.
Hard to keep track of your
similar thing. Yeah,
your sex pest controversies. Yeah, there's too many of them going on.
So they're kind of scrambling to create some new people, and some of the people that they've been showcasing are not my favorite. So it is kind of fun for them to go into the archives and pull some people out. And, it should be a bit fun, and it'll be fun to follow Twitter when the show's happening, because people who have been around, someone like a Dylan Hales who's been around and part of the independent scene for a long time, it'll be really fun to kind of see what he has to say about this and give some context to people that I'm not super familiar with.
Absolutely. So yeah, it should be a really cool show to check out there. And as we said, it presumably relatively on its own on Saturday, but we don't know what WrestleMania is going to be. And then other than that, you got Planet Death at 3, and then all the way until 7 p.m. with Unsanctioned Pro. So if you're skipping Mania, you pretty much have Beyond almost all to itself, especially if you're kind of over death matches by Saturday, which you might be, given considering there's 5 or 6 other deathmatch promotions going on before that. You might scoot on over to Beyond Wrestling Time Capsule, and that will also be on Independent Wrestling TV, as we said. So, Andy, I think we have reached the end here. We've talked about Family Reunion 1 and 2. We've talked about ICW, talked about Beyond, For the Culture. Is there a show that we haven't talked about here that you and I, that you're really looking forward to, at least checking out and watching from this weekend?
This one of the other really silly promotions that has popped up recently, and I have again a love-hate relationship because they're super inconsistent, is VXS. And their Lucid Dream show is ridiculous. I mean, Dr. Q versus JTG, crazy. Leo Rush versus Low Key. I mean, it could be terrible. I could definitely do without Jordan Oliver versus Jimmy Lloyd. But, Cage versus Dickinson. I mean, this is the closest to a 2021 style PWG show in a way. It could be a lot of fun. Scorpio versus Everfly is a bit of a weird one, but it just, most matches on there could be really, really fun. So that's one that I'm definitely going to try and make time to watch. Yeah,
it's the most, I think, one of the most complete cards of the entire weekend. And that's going on at, that's also a Friday at midnight type one from the Cuban Club there. So it'll be a little tough. I mean, obviously you got to, but it's like we said, when I talked about For the Culture, you can stay up till midnight on a Friday, and it's who cares, whatever. That's cool. So it's been another good, an okay spot for the Culture. But yeah, Lucid Dream is a good spot for them as well. And that is a really, really anticipated card for me as well. So good pull on that one. But before we
we'll see if Low Key shows up. Obviously,
yeah, that's also you gotta he's
ranting at people forced to wear masks in the Cuban club. So that'll be fun. Calling the crowd idiots and things like that.
Yeah, oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, right before he does the Nick Hogan DJ set, Rose all day the next day. So can't believe that's the thing. All right, so that wraps us up. So Andy, before we say goodbye, do you want to give your plugs and where people can follow you?
Yeah, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Trilly Robinson, TRILLY. And yeah, just keep your eyes open on VOW for not just myself, but a handful of people who will be covering things. I know that, I'll be previewing and reviewing some things. I'm guessing people like Jerry will as well, probably John, probably Paul, various people that, some of us that really watch and try and keep afloat the American independent scene. So go out and support these people, subscribe to IWTV, especially now that the network is a little tricky. So buy some of these things on Fight if they sound interesting, and just support the indies as well as you can.
Yeah, and the Fight Collective package. I think I don't have the total for me. I think it's $130 to do the entire Fight package. But IWTV is $10 a month, and you get all all the things that we talked about on IWTV are all there, all streaming, really good quality as well. I've never once had an issue with IWTV. So if you're worried about independent wrestling and streaming, never been a problem with IWTV. I can't say for certain that it's not going to be a problem on WrestleMania weekend, but having it all emanate from one place, I imagine they have their shit together, and it's a pretty professional operation there. So if you're not sure, you're unsure about it, I get it, but you don't have. I mean, I have never once had an issue with IWTV. Ever.
They every now and then do on their live things, but it's kind of on their end, and the people who run it are like the power goes out or their stream dies, and then they're really good about tweeting immediately and saying we'll show that match that you missed at the end of the show, and so you just have to so if something like that happens, they're really good at remedying the situation. Yeah,
so past many weekends people have been burnt by indie stuff, so I get it for sure, but no worries about IWTV, and like you said, GCW on Fight, and Fight, a very professional operation as well. So it's a good time if you're gonna be home on these weekends and want to watch these stuff. I mean, it's never been a better time. You can watch pretty much everything except for GCW, Zawa, and Crab Pro Wrestling. Pretty much everything else is going to be available for you to stream and watch in pretty high quality. So we're definitely spoiled these days. But Andy, thank you so much for coming on here and helping us preview WrestleMania weekend. The madness of March has ended, but that doesn't mean winning season is over at mybookie.ag. It's April, and guys, they have WrestleMania odds. So if you want to get in on the action for WrestleMania, perfect opportunity to do so right now at mybookie.ag. Use that promo code VOICES. Again, that's promo code VOICES at mybookie.ag, and you'll secure a deposit bonus up to $1,000. Again, promo code VOICES, mybookie.ag, for a deposit bonus up to $1,000. College basketball is over, but the NBA is hot and heavy. NHL is going strong. MLB just got started, and as I said, WrestleMania odds are up there. No matter the sport, no matter the minute, MyBookie puts the action in your hands with in-game live betting. There's also thousands of lines, odds, prop bets, and all that stuff that you can do to turn game day into payday. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie. Again, mybookie.ag, promo code VOICES to secure that deposit bonus up to $1,000. And make sure, again, that you get in on the action for WrestleMania weekend. Promo code VOICES, mybookie.ag, deposit bonus up to $1,000. Okay, and helping us once again help preview WrestleMania weekend, it's Jack Beckmann. Jack, how's it going?
I am doing wonderful. I'm excited to delve into the world of the U.S. indies, however great and plentiful they are nowadays. Couldn't think of better shows to preview with you today.
We have some weird ones to talk about, and we have they're all weird. Actually, I was trying to say weird, but they're all weird in their own certain ways. So before we get into the actual shows themselves, I want to give an opportunity to let people know where they can follow you, your work, your musings, and all that other fun stuff.
So I don't tweet much nowadays, but whenever I do tweet,
smart
about wrestling, esports, that kind of stuff, it's at Packerman120 on Twitter. That's about it.
There you go. So we have been asking people as well, WrestleMania weekend memories, and we talked a little bit off air about you have never been to a WrestleMania weekend, but the plan was always to go in 2020, and obviously gestures to the world. It did not happen. So yeah, tell a little bit about that story of how close you were to going to WrestleMania weekend last year.
So yeah, I've always wanted to go to WrestleMania weekend, just never been able to pull it off, financially, and the fact that I'm still 20, convincing, parents to let you go to Tampa or whatever city at the age of 17, 18. Not usually a big fan of that, but last year, I was planning on it. I had an Airbnb booked. I had a hotel booked, or not hotel. I had Airbnb booked. I had the plane booked. I got my WrestleMania ticket because I figured I may as well go once. So I still have that commemorative ticket on my dresser that I look at occasionally. That in hindsight, I'm very glad I got my $200 back for, because boy, that card was not looking great to me. But yeah, I was very close to going last year. And then actually on my birthday, because my birthday is on March 12th, that was the day where kind of everything hit, and I ended up canceling the Airbnb and the flight. And then obviously, things spiraled down from there. But I would like to get to one in the future. Although if they continue looking like this year's, I will definitely be less and less inclined unless, we have some cool international involvement whenever that's a thing again.
Absolutely, yeah. I've always said, like, nowadays, I don't think I'm going to fly to a WrestleMania weekend, but if it's ever, like, in the area, like, Indianapolis is always the one that I have my fingers crossed, because if they go there, there's really no excuse for me to not go. That may be a good opportunity for you as well, because it's like, yeah, I can get in the car and drive for X amount, or, take a half an hour flight or an hour flight to, in Indianapolis for WrestleMania weekend. But yeah, it is, hopefully you can get to one, and hopefully it won't be, so bad, and there won't be a pandemic going on while the WrestleMania weekend's going on. We can only hope. Yeah, let's talk about some of these shows here. You chose some very strange ones, and I'm glad you did, because we get to talk about shows that I did not think we were going to talk about. The first one we're going to talk about is Flophouse Wrestling's Booze-a-Palooza from the American Legion Post number 5, Thursday, April 8th at 6 p.m. So we talked with Taylor about this show as well. And the thing that we mentioned with Taylor is that this is running at the exact time as Crab Pro Wrestling Re-Wrestle with Mania, also at the American Legion Post number 5, also 6 p.m., also on Thursday, April 8th. We, in that show, figured out that both these shows are going to be outdoors, so I don't know if the rings are, like, on the opposite sides of a building. Oh. I don't know if the rings are next to each other. I have no earthly idea how this show is going to work, but I don't know that any of us are really going to see it, because I don't even know if it's streaming. But hopefully somebody is there, and somebody can let us know what the hell Flophouse Wrestling Booze-a-Palooza looks like at the American Legion Post number 5. What are your expectations for the old Booze-a-Palooza?
I'll start off by saying I didn't know that this was taking place at the same time as a different show. That's funny. I don't know what the market is for two different shows that look like
at the same time in the same place.
At the same time at the same grimy indie venue, up against Bloodsport 2 hours after and the Acid Cup 2 hours earlier. I don't think the attendance will be too great for these. Their big thing, Booze-a-Palooza, of course, is that they're offering $10 all you can drink.
I'm glad we had a 20-year-old on here to preview this show.
Yes,
I just realized that.
Yes, the irony of maybe the only person in the. I might be the person least qualified in the Slack to talk about drinking, because I mean, even though I'm 20, I don't go out and party, even in a non-COVID world. So it's not like I'm a big drinker, anyways. Other than But yeah, $10.
You know a deal. You can spot a deal and that's a deal. You know that. I mean, depending even no matter what you're going to be able to drink, that $10, you could drink a lot for $10.
I mean, I think it's a horrible idea with indie wrestling fans, and this is 6 p.m. So theoretically, this show will get out around 8 or 9, hopefully for those people in attendance, and then they're just hammered. I have to wonder, do they have disclaimers or anything, or is a limit, or are they just going to let them keep going? But I mean,
I'll remind you, this is taking place in Florida, so that's
fair point.
Is in
perhaps
Florida,
the thing I'm most interested in about this show is the $10 all you can drink, because if you look at the card, as I'm sure you'll run it down for us, it's not exactly good.
I don't want to interrupt here, but I just looked up this the location of this place, the American Legion Post number 5 here in Tampa, Florida. There appears to be a very large parking lot, which I assume is probably where things are going to happen on this show. Because the other side is like a FedEx office and print center. I doubt they're going to have it take place there. So there's a giant parking lot here. In the background of said parking lot is a cemetery. So it's a cemetery, a fence, and then this giant parking lot that I imagine both Crab Pro Wrestling and Booze-a-Palooza will be taking place from.
I am seeing that now.
Yeah, so what better place
to have an
you can drink double indie show than in front of a fucking cemetery in a parking lot. Unbelievable.
This is one hell of a cemetery too. There's no way they're avoiding this.
No, that is going to be the hard cam. Is going to be a cemetery. So now I'm even more interested in this. God, I wish these were streaming live. Unbelievable.
Only this is such an allegory for the U.S. indie scene too.
Just like gravestones everywhere. Yes. So let's talk about the names on the show. I don't think we're gonna have a whole lot to say because I don't know who 95% of these people are. Hoodfoot versus Shug D in the Flophouse Championship match. That is names that we are both familiar with. Most people listening probably are somewhat aware of either Shug D or Hoodfoot. Apollo Star versus Lee Moriarty. Poor Lee Moriarty. I mean, I hope he's getting paid for this because this man is going to be on 9 other shows defending these big titles, being one of the MVPs of indie wrestling, and he's here on Flophouse Wrestling's Booze-a-Palooza in front of a cemetery. There's a big ass motherfucking elimination invitational scramble with right now the names are Schwartzy, which I don't know if that's true because he's in another match now, but maybe it's true. Who knows? Anakin Murphy, Peter B. Beautiful, Vladimir Not Kozlov, Ashley Koloff, Christian Rose, Jordan Dye, Chi Guzman, Mikey, Johnny Butabi, Solomon Stone, and Arthur McMurray. There's a Carver's Monster Battle Royal match with Satu, Cash, Zodiac. I had Leslie getting a booking here. That's pretty cool for him. Stein and Knuckles. I don't know who the hell are these people. And then in a Flophouse Wrestling Tag Team Championship match, I know everyone's got their pens out circling this one. Schwartzy and Big Cuz defending the titles against the Bitcoin Boys. So, Jack. Yeah, those are names that are definitely going to be on that
Bitcoin
show.
Boys with a Z,
yes,
of course.
Yeah.
Because if there's anything this show just exudes is E-Fed bullshit is immediately what I thought of. Is that, I mean, if you just look at some of these names in this in big ass motherfucking eliminational as it's on the site, invitational scramble. I mean, you have Che Guzman, who sounds like a name that Joe Lanza would use as a communist Twitter burner account. You have Anakin Murphy, who's he likes Star Wars, and then just a whole bunch of other guys who essentially just look like they used like an EWR2 random name generator for their wrestling careers. And
as an EWR fan, this reminds me of, and I used to always do this when I played EWR. This is getting real nerdy here, so I know you'll appreciate it, and I hope other people will as well. There was always like the one challenge that the EW Battlegrounds had. It was the backyard to global challenge or whatever, and you would have to start your company and with the least amount of money possible and sign guys that would work for $10 or $5, or some guys would work for free. Half those guys that are listed right here, Peter B. Beautiful would definitely be like my world champion because he would he didn't need to get paid. It was $0 to book Peter B. Beautiful, and then I'd build him up, and then somebody would come and steal him from me when I had him at a certain point of overness, and I had to then decide, all right, well, fine, Jordan Dye is my new champion, and let's go. So, or Satu and Cash are going to be my guys. So, yeah, these are E-Fetty as fuck. EWR, who are these guys as fuck? Just the absolute bottom of the barrel. PWI 500, like numbers 488 to 492 type guys, where you're just like, who the fuck? Like, they just know somebody.
The guys who pay for slots,
I mean, right? Yeah, without without giving up the ghost. Yes, the guys who pay for their slots. So, hey, Hoodfoot, Shug D, and Apollo Star, Lee Moriarty. Those are guys. So,
yeah, like Lee Moriarty working the show just feels like, I mean, it's hard to be a star on the modern U.S. indie scene, but if anything, he feels like the guy who, if he plays his cards right, will probably break out as the star from this weekend. And for him to be wrestling on this show in a parking lot in front of a cemetery, I mean, hopefully he kills it. It's early in the weekend, so he won't be too beaten down yet. This won't be like a Saturday night show where he's going to phone it in for 8 minutes and then go drive across the city, across the sea wave of toxic wastewater to get to the next show. I can't imagine that match is going to be bad. I mean, I don't know anything about Apollo Star. I don't know if you do, but I mean, it's Lee Moriarty. He can get a 3-star match out of anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And then Hoodfoot versus Shug D are both some decent names here. But yeah, I'd like to imagine Lee Moriarty shows up, pulls up to the building, and then just turns around and leaves and goes, actually, why am I doing this? I have so many other bookings. Why am I going to bother with this thing? So, or maybe he participates in the $10 all you can drink and says, well, hey, can I get, a free $10 voucher? And they go, sure. And he goes, yeah, whatever. Fine with me. So,
spend his $10 in pay that he's getting from the promotion for the night. And
you're right, exactly. And have a fun little night. Enjoy himself as he gets ready for the rest of the grueling weekend. So that is Flophouse Wrestling's Booze-a-Palooza, again, running literally head-to-head in the same building, in the same venue with Crab Pro Wrestling, We Wrestle with Mania. Somebody listening here, if you are listening and you were going to Tampa, please go to these shows. Please go to these shows because I want to see how this works. I want to see. Somebody has to go to these shows and somebody has to report back. So, there you go. Flophouse Wrestling, Booze-a-Palooza. Also, let us know what booze is available for the $10 all you can drink. So, all right.
Probably it's going to be a bunch of shitty seltzers.
Yeah, probably. But, hey, $10, you could do some work with even with $10. But you're probably right.
That is true. That is true.
Probably Bud Light seltzer or something. Not even truly. Really.
Also, the $10 all you can drink is going to be like 5 people. So, I mean, there's no way they're going to make money off of that.
Oh, stop! Come on. There's 2 shows at once. It's too big for your buck. Yeah, I don't know.
With remarkably little overlap, if you look at it, they're using very unique talent in the show, which is kind of incredible.
I can't. Yeah, Taylor said that he wants the dream of you stand in the middle and you kind of swivel your chair one way and watch Crab Pro Wrestling, and swivel your chair the other way and you can see the other show, and yeah, that would be entertaining. And I don't know. Yeah, we also have the idea that they're both running at the exact same time as well. It's just pure chaos. Well, there's just one ring with 2 shows happening at the same time, which I think I would also enjoy as well. But let's move on to our next show here, Friday, April 9th. It's going to be in the Collective here. This one running pretty much by itself. You have Action Wrestling and Southern Underground Pro. Have Fun, Be Sad. That's going on at the exact same time at the 81 Bay Brewery. But this going on in the Cuban Club, the first show from the Collective on Friday. It's Alley Cat's Real Hot Girl Shit. The announcements here so far, the matches we have: Edith Surreal versus Lady Frost, Allison K versus Faye Jackson, Devine versus Erica Lee, Brooke Valentine versus Willow Nightingale, Faye Jackson's Gray Sweatpants Battle Royal with Mysterious Q, Daniel Garcia, PB Smooth, JTG, and Ricky Shane Page, Tasha Steeles versus Trish Adora, Holodead versus Dark Sheik, and Alley Cat versus Billy Starks. So, Jack, we are 2 white men from the Midwest, so let's you and I talk about Alley Cat's Real Hot Girl Shit. So,
yes.
If anybody's qualified to talk about real hot girl shit, it's you and I. So, who just got done talking about EWR backyard to global challenges on the EW Battlegrounds forums. So,
absolutely, we're very qualified for this.
What do you make of Alley Cat's Real Hot Girl Shit? Is this a show you're anticipating or looking forward to, or not so much?
After looking at all the cards, I think this might be the worst card of the weekend. Naturally, which is why I signed up to preview it. It's essentially just Alley Cat getting the book her friends, because while the U.S. Indies women's scene is not great, obviously with WWE and AEW taking most of the worthwhile talent as soon as they get going, I feel like there's still some talent. I mean, I don't know who, but I feel like there's still some talent that they could be doing on this, rather than just booking random Midwest wrestlers who. For example, I did some research on this, as one does. Brooke Valentine, her Twitter profile, her profile name is Thicky Steamboat. So that's the kind of stuff we're getting here. And then, of course, the very fun aspect of Billy Starks, a 16-year-old wrestling on a show that's advertised as hot girl shit, presumably within 30 minutes of a match where men are going to be wearing gray sweatpants to show their dicks. So that's fun, just in general. But otherwise, it's just pretty much Alley Cat and friends, getting money to book their show, and good for Alley Cat. If anything else, good for Alley Cat for getting this. I think she's the only person in this world who benefits from the show existing, but oh well.
Yeah, it's especially glaring when you look at on the same day that Ladies Night Out, Midnight in Tampa, the midnight show from the fake GCW that's running, has a lot of really good. I mean, there's Evilise versus Sue Young in there. There's Jazz versus Kira Hogan, Jordan Grace versus Alley Cat, Rochelle Chanel versus Heather Monroe, Roxy versus Rachel Rose. As I mentioned, Jordan Grace is going to be, Kara Hogan's going to be on that show, as I mentioned. There's a lot of really good talent on that show and some really good matches on that Ladies Night Out midnight in Tampa. And then this one there's just a little too much kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge to this entire show it's got me not super, super excited about it. And you're right. There are other talents that I have seen and that are working this weekend as well that seem like they could have gone there, but they just didn't have the right, calculus of whether it's being friends with Billy Kay or being friends with Alley Cat or just, I don't know. It's strange because there just definitely seems like there is more talent down there. There is more women's talent down there. We can see it in other shows. But for whatever reason, this just kind of appears to be just the same names you would see on any other, sort of GCW show or any other sort of women's show at the time. And I think there's a real opportunity here to really kind of, shine a light on some new, really good women's talent. And I don't know that they did it here. None of the names here are new or kind of unique. They're just kind of people that I think a lot of, if you're keenly aware of the American indie scene, the American women's indie scene, most of these names. And yeah, there is to me better talent that is there this weekend that just is not booked on the show. And I should note that I mentioned Allison K versus Faye Jackson on the show. Faye Jackson has an injury, so she will not be wrestling on that show, but I don't know if as of this recording, we do not have a replacement for Allison K as well, but she will still be partaking or at least coordinating the gray sweatpants battle royal, as you said. So there's definitely weirdness with the Billy Starks thing, the real hot girl shit, the gray sweatpants battle royal, but I just like to go away from it and just say, you know what,
it's best to ignore
whatever.
that.
Yeah,
it's best to ignore that.
It's similar to it's similar to the Joey Ryan thing many years ago. We were bad people for saying, I don't know if I love that everybody has forced to touch his dick, and I was like, oh, it's good. I'm like, all right. Maybe
a show I signed up to preview, I think a year or two.
You did.
I previewed it 2 years ago,
I think so. Yeah, you definitely previewed
signed up
party.
to preview it.
Yeah, you definitely talked
which
to
is
well, hey.
Boy, you gotta scrub that one from the internet.
For sure. Yeah, I'm really excited to watch. I think even at that time we were all kind of like, this is getting kind of weird here. Like, does everybody need to hold his dick? Is that really like, can we just have a normal match?
Yeah. So I actually have a funny story regarding that. So I went to All In, as you did. And Joey Ryan was obviously there with the penis druids. And my dad is a very immature man, loved it.
I like how just matter of factly you said, like, if any normal human being listened to this, you're like, Joey Ryan, of course, was there with the penis druids. Yeah, of course.
Yes, as one does. Anyways, my dad loved it, and we were in the car the other day, and he brought up Joey Ryan. I'm like, no, Dad, you cannot fight with Joey Ryan anymore. He's a rapist. And my dad was like, oh, okay. Just funny that just came up. It's like, oh no, we cannot talk about that anymore. It's like, okay,
we're done. So,
it's like, and then he's disappointed. I'm like, yeah, he's not a good dude. But,
no,
that's how I think of when I talk about Joey Ryan.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the next two shows we're going to talk about here. ICW's No Holds Barred Pit Fighter X Battle of the Tough Guys Part 1 and Part 2. It's a mouthful, but Jack, these look like pretty fun shows here. The first one, Friday, April 9th at 8 p.m., running head-to-head with the Spring Break show from The Collective, as well as the fake GCW Rerun This Town, which has got a bunch of stuff going on that entire weekend as well. I can keep forgetting to mention their shows they're running up against, but I don't know if any of them are even streaming live, so it's probably not even worth mentioning. And, people are dropping like flies from those shows anyway, because I guess they're not paying them. So by this time, those shows might not even be happening. I don't know. Who the hell knows? But anyway, we're talking ICW here. No Holds Barred, Pit Fighter X, Battle of the Tough Guys, Part 1 and 2. As I said, Part 1, Friday, April 9th at 8 p.m. Part 2, also Friday, April 9th, but this one at midnight. So we're going to have two shows here from ICW. The No Holds Barred Pit Fighter X shows on this day. For people that have never seen ICW No Holds Barred Pit Fighter, what can they expect from these shows?
Yeah, so it's just a kind of like Bloodsporty vibe, but like knockoff. I think in the grand scheme of things, this will be pretty cool. But if you're going into this expecting like a normal like wrestling tournament, normal wrestling rules and all that, you can't. It's going to be different. But I think at the end of the day, they got a lot of cool names for this tournament, and assuming everyone tries. No one has the Mania fatigue. These shows are also taking place, on Friday night. So hopefully they won't be too burned out by then. This show has a very, very good chance at being one of the best shows of the weekend. Of course, I don't think it's making tape, which is unfortunate. But there's some actually really cool matches on this first run show, as I'm sure you'll run it down.
Yeah, so this one is this one on Independent Wrestling TV? I thought it was, but maybe
It doesn't say so on the voicesofwrestling.com, WrestleMania Weekend 2021 full schedule and map.
Oh, well, I think we fucked up. I think it is. Yeah, so that's on our fault. Those are both on Independent Wrestling TV. So we'll
never mind. I'm on Wrestling Inc. actually.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Wrestling Inc. What are those idiots? Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. Raj, what are you doing, Raj? Figure it out. Anyway, yes. So they are going to be both on Independent Wrestling TV. So you can watch both of those.
Okay, that's awesome.
So
that's
sorry
awesome.
about that. That is our fault.
Shows, then.
I'll update that. So you can see both these. So yeah, if you've never seen, it is like you said, it's kind of Bloodsport meets. They're in like an octagon cage. There's sometimes is weapons hung from the cage, and there's two different styles. Like sometimes guys just beat the fuck out of each other with weapons, and then sometimes guys do kind of blood sporty, a paradigm wrestling style work shoot type stuff as well. But there's a lot of different ways that people approach it, and you'll see on this show alone as we talk about the matches here. Like so, 16-man tournament, 2 shows, 4 rounds here. First round match, Bruce Santee versus Dan Maff. Dom Guarini versus Kevin Coo, which is pretty interesting as their former tag team partner, or actually current tag team partners and best friends. So it's a really cool match to have right there. Calvin Tankman versus John Davis. Reed Bentley versus John Wayne Murdoch. Schlack versus now to be decided because of Akira having to pull out. Nolan Edward versus JD Drake. Brett Isom versus Daniel Garcia. And Justin Kyle versus Gary J. So just alone in those matches, you have Dom Guarini and Kevin Coo. That is going to be more ground-based. That's going to be more kind of work-shoot, technical, kind of grapple game type stuff. And then there's Reed Bentley and John Wayne Murdoch, who are going to, take chainsaws to each other's faces and stuff. And then Schlack, who, Schlack's not going out there and doing a top wrist lock. Like, he's going to beat some ass and there's going to be some blood. So right there alone, run just on those first-round matches, you can see how varied this show is going to be. And there's going to be quite literally something for everybody at some point, on one of these 2 shows.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be cool. I mean, you look at these matches like Nolan Edward and JD Drake. Nolan Edward, a guy a lot of people who still watching the U.S. Indies have tapped for future breakout. I'm also a fan of his against JD Drake. Long-standing Evolve veteran, recently did some AEW stuff. Probably the best pure skill unsigned talent on the Indies still. So I'm looking out for that match. Greeny and Koo, as you mentioned, I think that'll be definitely a good match. Santee and Math, just 2 big guys going at it. That should be fun. The only match I really look at, and I think that I'm not really excited for it, would be Reed Bentley versus John Wayne Murdoch, but I'm not really into the U.S. indie deathmatch kind of stuff, but I'm sure they'll do their thing and it'll be fine. But every other match on this card, you got Brett Ice and Daniel Garcia. Those are two guys that a lot of people are high on. Daniel Garcia, very talented. Brett Ison does that Southern indie stuff. He's pretty good too. And then Gary J on the show. He's always been a under the radar favorite of mine. Doing stuff in the Midwest, Missouri. Although he'll drive anywhere scene. Like, he's super talented. Overall, I think that this show, if enough people actually watch it and go to it, I think it could turn out to be one of the more, show that we're not looking at going into the weekend, but could turn out to be one of the best.
Yeah, there really is a real cool look and feel to the show. So it's definitely one that I'm going to check out. And it's true of ICW. Like, sometimes of what I've seen of ICW, some stuff really lands and I really, really love it. And then some stuff I absolutely hate. There's like no in between. Mm-hmm. So I definitely see that from this night. There might be a few matches that you really, really are just like, that's exactly what I want. And then a few that you're like, that's absolutely garbage. I hate that match so much. But that makes it kind of fun. You never know what you're going to get here with this. As far as the tournament itself, do you have any sort of thoughts or any predictions of who goes through in this tournament, who wins this tournament, or is it pretty much a coin flip for you?
Yeah, I don't. I would think that they would give it to like a guy like Dom Guarini mm-hmm. or Nolan Edward, like a younger guy who probably, no disrespect to Dom Guarini, isn't going to get signed in the next 3 to 6 months, so they can theoretically do something with him if they wanted to. So for that, I'd probably say like Dom Guarini or Nolan Edward or Daniel Garcia. I think one of those 3 would be the winner if I had to pick. But it's also, the U.S. Indies, so Schlack could end up going on a terrorizing run and win every match in 4 minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that could just happen.
Yeah, and that's the reason I kind of asked, is I think there are a lot of names on the show that I could totally justify, and you could totally justify having them win. A Dom Guarini, even a Kevin Coo to that extent mm-hmm.
as
well. Or yeah, you can do a Nolan Edward who could really really work. Or you can really surprise it too, and like a Brett Isom can really do it. Or maybe you get crazy and have one of the deathmatch guys, Reed Bentley, go through and do it. There's a lot of dudes that can win this thing. Even a Gary J as well. We shouldn't underrated as well. I mean, he's a guy who I absolutely love and would be great. I mean, it's awesome for this style, this pit fighter stuff. So, there's a lot to like in this, and I like that you can just pretty much say, hey, I don't know who's going to win this thing, and kind of enjoy it from that aspect. So, we don't know obviously what's going to happen on night 2, because it all depends what happens in the first round matches of night 1. But as we said, 2 shows, 4 rounds, 16-man tournament as well, to determine the official tough guy, I guess, the Pit Fighter X Battle of the Tough Guy, toughest guy in the tournament. So we are also going to do the ICW. You want to do the No Holds Barred 12 show as well?
Yeah, sure. Let me just pull up that card. When is that one taking place?
That one is going to be, I figure, while we're talking ICW. Well, no, you know what? Hold on. I talked about that one with Andy. I'm good. You're good. No, I'm
yeah, you did.
Yeah, I already talked about that one.
I mean, I could do some, but yeah.
I'm sure I don't even remember what we said. I don't even know if would people hear this by now? I record these all out of order. I think they would have heard this by now. They know. We already said great stuff about that show, so there's nothing more.
Yeah, I'm looking at that card now. I don't have anything.
Yeah,
I don't have anything
fine,
profound to say about Neil Diamond Cutter. It's a great name.
It's a solid
great name.
It's a hell of a great name. So hopefully he wins every match.
We need more of that guy on like the Flophouse wrestling kind of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. Facing, who was it? What was the pretty boy? It was oh god, what's the name of this?
Peter B. Beautiful.
Peter B. Beautiful. Yeah, I want Peter B. Beautiful.
He has a charisma, so you have him cut promos for 30 minutes on your show to game the rating, and then you gain fans that way. That's
incredible.
Perfect.
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah. So we talked about ICW. We talked about hot girl shit. We talked about Flophouse Wrestling, Booze-a-Palooza. Is there a show, an event, a block, or anything that you're really kind of looking forward to that we have not talked about on the show as well? Not anything we need to do an extensive preview of, but any show that you're like, hey, I'm really looking forward to that show, or any person maybe that you're looking forward to, or event, or block, or whatever it might be. What's got you excited for this WrestleMania weekend?
So there isn't much, but there is some stuff that, like, on Spring Break, Ricochet and Page versus Nick Gage. I'm excited for that one, I could say for sure. Rich Swann, Lee Moriarty on that same show. That should also be fun. And then, there's some other fun stuff scattered throughout the weekend, like this Violence X Suffering show has some fun stuff, like Dr. Cube versus JTG.
Yeah, that Lucid Dream show is awesome.
It's a low-key, very Leo Rush low-key. If Loki shows up, that's going to be fun.
And even if he does, he's going to be pissed. Like,
it's midnight. It's like he'll probably hit the ring at like 3 a.m. Like that's prime for something good to happen.
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
In that cage, like Brian Cage, Chris Dickinson, Jack Evans, Tony Deppen, like it's a low-key, very good card. And that could end up being the show of the weekend if, Loki does something fun. It doesn't even have to be good. It just has to be, Loki special, which, he's prone to do unless he's working under Court Bauer.
Yeah, there's a lot to like on that show, and I don't know if I could stay up live for that one. I wish I could, because just the way my sleep schedule goes, that's going to be tough to do. But
yeah,
it's going to be a very interesting show to watch at 5 a.m. when I wake up the next day and go, all right, time for CXS Lucid Dream here. And as everybody else in the crowd and all the wrestlers, it's 4 a.m. and they just got out of the ring like an hour ago, and I'm like, all right, let's go, let's watch this thing. So cannot wait for that one though. But yeah, that's a show, that's a low key. We've talked about it a lot, we've previewed a lot here, and that's one that a lot of people have brought up that they're really looking forward to. So yeah, good on those guys for booking a really interesting show. You just wish it was at a slightly better time slot, but it's going to be on the collective package, so you can watch it whenever you like. But Jack, before we go, do you want to get your last little plug out of the way, and then we'll bid you adieu?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Packerman120. I'll tweet about wrestling and esports occasionally. And at the end of the day, I'm going to go into this weekend with an open mind and hope that it's either some good wrestling or we get more stuff like Blackcraft, which is one of my favorite shows and things to happen in general for a long time. So I'm hoping that we get one of the two.
It was an experience.
If we get one of the two, I will come out of this weekend happy if that happens. So
you want it to be so bad. It's to the torture of all those people live, including myself, for Blackcraft Wrestling. Well, so the life cycle of Blackcraft Wrestling for people that and I've talked about this before, and we did a review. If you're a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling, you can get our review that we did immediately after that show. But it reached a point where like an hour in, you're like, this fucking sucks, what the hell is this shit? And then it got so ridiculous for the last 2 hours that it became like the most fun I've ever had at a wrestling show. So you want that, you want like, this fucking sucks, wait, never mind, this is actually the most incredible train wreck I've ever seen in my entire life. So,
and it has to be at midnight. There's no other way about it. It has to be at midnight.
Oh man,
But
Jack.
yeah, I mean,
we're done. That's it. We've nailed it. So WrestleMania weekend obviously coming up. So Jack, thank you so much for helping us preview these very, very odd shows. Hopefully, again, somebody is at Booze-a-Palooza and can let us know what it looks like, what the $10 drinks are, and who's buried next to this American. I'd assume it'd be soldiers, right? Next to the American Legion Hall, I guess. Is that disrespectful to have a...
I mean, I was going to joke and say that some of the attendees of this show will be buried there when they get COVID, but I think that is a little crass, even though I just said it. But it's the end. No one's listening this far anyways. But
well, so no, actually, I think you're gonna be up pretty high. Well, I might now I might have to stuff you at the end here for this because of your untasteful jokes. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's Florida. Everything goes in Florida, man. So everything is good.
If you're going to this WrestleMania weekend, you kind of know it.
You're on the verge of you're potentially allowing yourself to join the gravestones there. So you've taken that risk. So you got to go for it. But hey, good on them for doing an outdoor show. COVID friendly, a little more outdoor.
Yeah, they're one of the more responsible companies of the weekend.
Just saying a lot for Crab Pro Wrestling and Flophouse Wrestling, despite the $10
all you can drink.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're literally trying to poison the livers of their 5 attendees. But yeah,
but hey,
good on them.
Good on them. Hopefully they make more than $50 and somewhere between $100 maybe. All right. So anyway, that is it for us, Jack. Thank you so much for helping us preview these shows. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we'll talk again next year, and hopefully you're going to that WrestleMania weekend, and it's a fun WrestleMania weekend. So
let's hope.
And our guest at this time is Jeremy Sexton. Jeremy, how's it going?
Good. How's it going?
You follow him at Twitter, or on Twitter, at Jeremy Sexton on Twitter. But we are doing our yearly, well, not last year, but other than last year, our yearly check-in on the Bloodsport events here. Obviously, this is Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6, Bloodsport 7, if we count the Matt Riddle lineage. Are you weirded out by the lineage, or are you okay with it being Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6, even though it's technically the 7th Bloodsport?
I mean, it's Josh Barnett, so this was the only way this was going to happen.
Because he gets really upset about it, too, which makes me that much more interested in hopefully that he listens to this and hopefully drilling home that this is, in fact, actually the 7th Bloodsport, even though it's called Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6. So,
well, I mean, the man, as his Twitter profile says, marches to the beat of his own double bass drums. So what can I say?
That's awesome, yeah. And it works, too, because it does, Bloodsport obviously being, a famous movie in the 80s, it fits the lineage of like 80s movie canon, which is all over the fucking place with the Rambo and the First Blood, and then you get to Legends of Zeldas, in the video game world. So to me it's actually perfect that it is as confusing and annoying as it is. So
of course,
let's get into the show here real quick. But actually, no, before we do that, I am checking in with everybody that's doing these previews here. WrestleMania weekend memories, any WrestleMania weekends you've been to. So you have been to a WrestleMania weekend, but you didn't really partake in the weekend, from what I understand.
Yeah, at that time. So the last WrestleMania weekend I went to was WrestleMania 31. So it was the last good WrestleMania. So that was good. And was there in the building for WrestleMania. I had club seats at the new, it was brand new at the time, Levi Stadium, which was absolutely lovely. But at the time, the whole indie scene wasn't quite what it is now. You didn't have so many matches. You had Ring of Honor was doing a show. And there were some other stuff. I think NXT did their first ever WrestleMania weekend show that year. And it was Charlotte had some match that was the talk of it or whatever. And the thing is I went with my wife, and we instead spent a whole lot of time in wine country before WrestleMania.
That's fair.
So it was kind of out of my hands.
It's not Mercury rising, but I guess it's it's you probably made the better choice than going to the I think Santa Clara Fairgrounds, if I remember correctly, where a lot of this stuff was going on. Because if you remember, that was the weird year where for the first year, really, WrestleMania and WWE were essentially you can't run in this area. You have to run outside of this area, except for WWN. And that was when the first little tip-off of, wait a minute, what's going on with WWN and Evolve and WWE? Why are they allowed to run in Santa Clara? And ROH has got to go, I forget where, I don't even remember where they ended up going, but they ended up going very far away for their show. Whereas, and WrestleCon, I remember being all the way in San Jose or whatever. I mean, not super, super far away, but far enough away that if you were staying in the Santa Clara area was a little bit of an issue. But yeah, plenty of of WWN shows at that time. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That was it wasn't really the bolstered weekend that it'd be, in another year or two where everybody was really basically doing stuff. So.
Yeah, the one additional thing that we did was we went to the Jim Ross Q&A.
Oh, incredible. Yes. I'll look at it here. Afternoon with Jim Ross at the Rock Bar Theater.
Yep.
It said this says it drew 800 people. Would you we're doing a head count there? Do you remember the count?
I would say I would believe 500. I remember Samoa Joe was his special guest there that he brought out. And JR predicted that time next year, Samoa Joe would have an important match that weekend. Still waiting on that one. I talked to, I think, Brian Alvarez for a little bit. I remember Michelle Beadle, randomly enough, was there. And JR told some stories. It was a thing.
That's awesome. So that is your WrestleMania weekend history. Obviously, not going this weekend as I don't think anybody in our that I'm talking to.
I was supposed to go last year.
That's right. Yes, I do remember that.
And so we had done because I'm currently not working because of my health, and my wife works from home, so she can work anywhere with an internet connection. We did sort of a little, trip around the southern states last January, February, March. And so we spent a couple months down in College Station, right down the block from Joe. And then went over to my in-laws' place in Orlando and was like, perfect, got all my tickets. I was planning on going to so many things.
2020, the perfect year for Jeremy to travel the world and see all the things that America can give you and go to WrestleMania weekend. And
didn't happen so much.
It didn't work out very well. So, hey, you know what? You still got to travel and see things.
It's true.
Not really people, but you saw some things, so that's cool. Things are cool.
Of course. We went to Disney while, we were in line for Mickey and Minnie's Railway Runaway as Rudy Gobert was touching mics and whatnot. So it was it was something.
Definitely an experience you'll always remember. Yeah, always a story to tell for the rest of your life. So let's get into this Bloodsport show here. Obviously, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6 taking place on the Thursday, April 8th, 8 p.m. slot. Running head-to-head with a few shows here. ICW's No Holds Barred 11, Then and Now, which is a pretty good card on paper, is running up against this. Also NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver Night 2. So Night 2 of the NXT offering also at 8 p.m. But this one obviously is a part of the collective, so it'll all be available on Fight TV, and you can stream it live on Fight TV. And obviously there's tickets information if you are going to be in the Florida area, but this will be taking place in the Cuban Club like all of the collective shows. So real quickly, before we actually get into the card that we have here for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6, one question I did just want to ask you, because the last time we talked about a Bloodsport was all the way back in, I think, the original Josh Barnett Bloodsport. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So since then, obviously, with it being the upcoming Bloodsport number 6, what do you make of this sort of breaking free from WrestleMania weekend in its own way? Obviously, Matt Riddle's Bloodsport 1 take place, 2018 WrestleMania weekend. Josh Barnett comes back, takes the mantle from Matt Riddle, starts his Bloodsport in 2019, the show that we talked about many, many years ago, show I attended live and absolutely loved. And then, obviously, this next year we had Bloodsport 2 taking place from Atlantic City. That was in, September, October. It takes place at the collective pseudo weekend thing. I forget, there was a name for it. I don't even remember what it was at this point. And then obviously the two shows already this year in February on back-to-back weekends, getting us all the way up to this Bloodsport number 6. Whereas the last time we talked 2 years ago, we're at Bloodsport 1. We haven't even gotten any. Do you think that it takes something away from it being a more regular event, or do you like this idea of it being a little bit more consistent and not just a once-a-year thing?
I don't know. It's tough. On one hand, I do think it works better as an attraction, as sort of every so often it pops up. If you do it once, maybe twice a year, the way it's currently incarnated, I could see that being the way to go. But it seems like they're struggling and trying to figure out what it is. there is a path where they could turn this into something that runs more regularly, especially with there not really being too many great indie spots right now. This could be something that's different, and I mean, of course it's never going to be some like self-sustaining promotion or something, but it could be something that they could run, you know, every other month or something like that. But you know, the last two that happened this year, it seemed like they still don't really know, like they haven't found it yet, because you've got this like crazy 80s action film aesthetic, which looked really cool. Like the two shows they did back in February looked really neat. The problem was, at the same time, you have Josh Barnett doing really understated commentary, which like doesn't match the aesthetic at all. Like either this needs to be, you know, just dudes rolling on the mat and we're going to talk about catch wrestling and grabbing holds, or let's make this friggin' Kumite the pro wrestling promotion. And in which case, like, I think that's a thing that you could run more often. But I don't know. It's like they're stopping short of really pulling the idea off. And I'd love to see, like, Josh Barnett sort of has this duality where he's this weird metal guy, and then he's also a huge martial arts nerd. And I'd like to see him push this more to his weird metal sensibilities than his mixed martial arts nerd sensibilities, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it's a criticism that I talked about in the Flagship with the two February shows. I enjoyed both shows. I think there was stuff on both those shows that I really, really did enjoy. But to me, they've failed to capture, I think, what made the Matt Riddle Bloodsport, the original one, great, and what made Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, the first one, pretty great as well, which was kind of like you said. There was this weird thing where they knew their identity then. Matt Riddle's Bloodsport was unabashedly a wrestling show that featured wrestlers, but they had to fight. You know, it wasn't like they weren't trained. Nobody really knew what they were doing. And that was part of the charm. It was like, you know what? Fuck it. It's this guy, and they're going to fight, even though they don't know how to fight, but they're going to figure out how to fight. And some guys would show off some stuff. Oh, that guy knows a little bit. Or, there was, a few guys that would show up, and there were a few names that knew how to fight. But for the most part, it was, hey, the wrestlers that you're going to watch wrestle, 5 other times this weekend, they're going to come to this event. We're going to take the ropes off, and then they're going to have to fight. And that was kind of a cool, different, unique sort of sideshow attraction, like you said. And then Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, I think, took that to another level where you had, here are badass wrestlers, not just any wrestler we can find. Here are the baddest, the biggest, baddest wrestlers that we can find. And they're going to go out there and they're going to fake fight and they're going to have fights and brawl. But at the end of the day, they're still wrestlers. They're still guys that you're going to see all this weekend, with the exception of a few other guys. And of course, there's Minoru fucking Suzuki. And that kind of changes the whole trajectory of the thing. Cause then it's like, oh, well, there's some legitimacy too. Because, there are guys that actually know how to fight. And there are guys like Minoru Suzuki who blend that two together. Josh Barnett, who obviously blended the two together. And since then, I feel like they've kind of struggled to, like you said, to figure out exactly what they are. I mean, some of the the quote unquote fights on those February shows, they resemble just normal, like you said, kind of rolling, grappling matches. And it's like, I appreciate that. And I know that Josh Barnett probably likes it, but that's not really, I don't know who that serves. Like, I don't think your MMA fan is really going to watch Bloodsport and go, oh, this is great. Like, because most of the stuff that they're going to see on that show is not going to appeal to their sensibilities. And then your pro wrestling fans are going to see these, two decently trained, British jiu-jitsu guys like rolling on the mat. And it's like, well, what does this do for me? So that is kind of what they're struggling with right now. And I don't know that Bloodsport 6 is going to fix that, but I think the card on paper at least makes me think that they kind of understood what went wrong maybe with the February shows. But I don't know. What do you make of this card as we look at it and compare it to, those February shows?
Yeah, I think there's some interesting stuff there. And I think you're 100% right about sort of that MMA uncanny valley that it kind of leans into, where it's like, I am a huge MMA fan, and also is my wife. My wife is a huge MMA fan. And what's funny is that, like, when it comes to pro wrestling, like, she finds nothing entertaining about, like, Zack Sabre Jr., because she knows what real fight grappling looks like. Whereas, like, if she sees like the Young Bucks or Phoenix out there doing something crazy, some flippy doos or whatever, it's like, oh, this is different, this is interesting, this is fun. And so, you see guys doing things in the Bloodsport matches that don't make any sense. Like, they'll give up mount for no reason, they'll get good positions, but then they're not throwing strikes. And so it's like, it's better off when, it's just pro wrestlers clubbering each other, hitting hard, doing some submissions and stuff, and getting kind of wacky with it. And you look down the list here, and there's some new names. There's some other names kind of put in some different matchups. And so I think this show, top to bottom, as I was doing my research, I really think it's going to be a pretty good show. I'll be really surprised if most of these matches don't deliver in some respect.
So we'll talk about these matches here, and we're going to bring something back that we did a few years ago as well when we previewed the original Josh Barnett Bloodsport. We're going to preview these both in a work sense and then also a shoot sense as well, where we try to decide if this was a real fight. If Josh Barnett came to the back and said, all right, guys, we're not working. This is all shoot now. Today is a shoot, which I don't know. I don't know about the legalities of that or whatever. I could see a lot of wrestlers going, fuck it. All right, that sounds good. Let's do it, man. So you might have to change around some of the match layouts here a little bit. But yeah, we're going to preview it both ways. So we'll talk about what it's going to be as kind of the quote unquote worked Bloodsport style. And then also, if Josh Barnett came to the back and completely lost his mind and said, Schlack and Super Beast, I want you guys to go at it for legit, which is fascinating. And then we're going to decide who would win in a shoot fight between these two men. But here we go. We'll start out with a match that just got announced as of this recording, or just a day before we're doing this recording. Chris Dickinson versus Shane Mercer. I am very much looking forward to this for that reason that we were just talking about, where I know that these guys aren't going to grapple. I know that these guys don't really give a shit about mounting, and then don't give a shit about, transitioning into a submission. These guys are just going to fucking beat the hell out of each other for maybe 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. But this is one of my most anticipated matches of this year's Bloodsport for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I have absolutely no idea what to expect from Shane Mercer here. Chris Dickinson's done a few of these. We kind of know what he does, and he's pretty good at the Bloodsport setting. Shane Mercer, I feel like every time I see him in the ring, it's impressive. Like, I'm a big guy, but I'll do a flying, back body drop or whatever. And so who knows what this is going to be like. Hopefully they just hit each other real hard and toss each other on their heads and go for some wacky holds. And it could be fine, but odds are it's probably going to be better than that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really exactly know Shane Mercer's background in any sort of combat sports. He looks like a guy who probably did like high school wrestling or something, but I don't actually know if that's true or not. So I'll be very interested to see what ends up happening on that. So as far as a shoot fight aspect between these two, without knowing enough about Shane Mercer's background, I feel like Chris Dickinson could probably beat him, but I don't know. It's a tough one. This is the closest one to me. This is kind of a toss up between these two.
Yeah, I think it seems like Dickinson has more sort of a submission game. And so that even if Mercer were able to get on top, I feel like he could sweep him, sort of reverse position, and either himself get on top or catch a hold. And so, I think I lean Dickinson in this one. I think it would be close, though, because I don't know if either of these guys have any actual combat training.
Yeah, that I unfortunately don't know. I know Shane Mercer is a very, very strong man, but Chris Dickinson also a very strong man as well. So, yes, in terms of muscles, it's a pretty even matchup. Maybe a little bit of an advantage to Mercer.
Off the bus.
Exactly. That's really, it's pro wrestling, so that's what matters. Simon Grimm versus Alexander James. Now, this is a very interesting one. As both have some background, correct?
They do. There was so Simon. Well, kind of like
Grimm, sort of.
Simon Grimm's.
Right.
Yeah, like I think Grimm's background is just kind of like he may have done some wrestling in high school or something like that. But because I feel like people have told me before, oh no, Simon Grimm, yeah, he's got this background, and yet I scoured the internet the other day. I sat on my couch and I was just digging and digging. I can't find one peep about this guy actually doing anything. It seems like he just had an old-timey wrestler look, so they gave him the Gotch name, and that's kind of it. So I don't know. And now he's lost the mustache, so maybe he's Samson in that regard, and all of his strength was in that mustache. who knows? And then Alexander James, he seems to have like a Euro style, even though he's from Maryland. And I know he wrestles a lot in WXW these days. And so, he's probably got some sort of catch training just through that. Because what else do you do if you're wrestling in Germany for that long?
Yeah, for sure. So I think on this one, this is an interesting. Grimm is a guy who on the early Bloodsports, I thought I liked a little bit more of what he did because, like you said, he kind of took him a little bit more of the wrestler aspect of there and less of like the, I'm a trained, I know what I'm doing out there. And then in recent Bloodsports, it feels like he acts like he knows what he's doing, but I'm still not sure if he actually does know what he's doing, if that makes sense. Like, he looks like a guy who thinks he knows how to grapple and stuff, but I don't know enough about it to know that he does know how to grapple, but I kind of think he doesn't. I don't know. It's very strange with Simon Grimm lately.
Yeah, no, it seems like both of these guys are just kind of like pro wrestling technical wrestlers.
Right.
And Grimm, in the Bloodsport matches, it really, for me, seems dependent on opponent. Like, depending on who he's in there with, it's either going to be pretty good or it might just be kind of lackluster, and it is what it is.
So I'm trying to look up, because I'm trying to remember how many... I feel like Grimm's not done well in the Bloodsport results. Hasn't he lost every single match that he's been in? Okay, no, he beat Matt Mikowski on Bloodsport 3, but other than that, he lost to JR Kratos, lost to Anthony Corelli, lost to Tom Lawler, and lost to Rocky Romero at Bloodsport 5. So not looking to get back on the winners column here. So
of course they're going to put Santino Marella over him. So, you just...
Right. As far as the real shoot fight, I guess Alexander James. I don't know. They're as you said, both kind of evenly matched in that sense.
Yeah, I think this is one of those there's weight classes for a reason sort of situations.
Yes.
And I think Alexander James is just so much bigger than him that, I think he beats him just by that alone.
Now we get a name that surprised everybody when he was announced for the February shows, but actually I'd say acclimated himself pretty okay. Bad Dude Tito versus Victor Benjamin. I don't really know much about Victor Benjamin. What can you tell us about Victor Benjamin?
So Victor Benjamin is the Savage Gentleman. He is married to Lady Frost. They work together in Chikara as the One-Eyed Jack and the Red Queen. He's got a good look. That's what I can tell you about Victor.
There you go. So, not an aspiring MMA fighter. He didn't work for Pancrase or K1 none of those. Bellator.
He's got some sloppy looking kicks in his arsenal.
That's good. So, all right, good start.
We'll see. I saw a match of his. It was him and Alexander James, and then Ophidian actually teaming up against some trio of like dudes from the streets of Maryland was kind of their gimmick or something like that. And it was just a lot of like Chikara nonsense because you got Ophidian in there hypnotizing people and Lady Frost is freezing people. And it was, it was a match. I'm not really sure why this guy's here. Maybe, he's tightened up those kicks and he'll be tossing some at Bad Dude Tito. But to transition to Bad Dude Tito, his one match in the Bloodsport setting that I saw, his strikes looked real weak. I was surprised. They were decidedly not Bad Dude material.
Yeah, the name, I don't know if that's the heat with Bad Dude Tito. Like, I haven't seen enough of Bad Dude Tito. We'd have to
like Macho Man.
Yeah. We might have to have because I know Joe Land's a big fan of Bad Dude Tito. He might be able to give us some insights on that. But yeah, I don't know if that's the heat. Is that he's not as bad of a dude as he says? But I don't know. I don't actually know if that's true. So let's we can't say that officially. But this I don't love this match. This match has a lot of I don't know what to say about this one. I'm not looking forward to this match. I'll say on both the Bloodsport or even if it was a shoot fight level, I'd probably just wait and hope for it to be over as quick as possible because I don't have too much faith in
I guess
this matchup,
my hope is that it's just like sloppy as all get out and lasts 3.5 minutes And it has entertainment on that level, that they just go out there and kind of flail at each other, and it's awkward. Maybe someone legit gets popped in the nose, and they go home. It's a knockout finish of some sort. And if they go out there and start grappling, this is going to be real bad.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. I would hope that they don't. I think both these guys probably know their levels here, and we'll hopefully just make it look okay. So we'll move on here. Matt Makowski versus, and I'm going to butcher the hell out of this name, I think it's Hedy Karayo. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Hedy Karawi.
Karawi. Okay.
So.
Well, I don't know. I know nothing of French, obviously, so that did not do well. So, what can you tell us about the obviously Matt Makowski? I think a lot of people that are listening to this are probably aware of him, either in ring in terms of in the Indies. This is a frequent Bloodsport participant as well. But what about Hedy here that we need to know?
So Hedy was trained by Inoki and Billy Robinson. Here we go. He's wrestled all over the world. So this guy has done stints in Japan. He's currently been in Mexico for the past 2 years. He's wrestled in Europe. He did that show in North Korea with Ultimo Dragon. He was on that, wrestling Ultimo Dragon. The match is not good. Don't watch it. I did. You don't have to. Here's the thing. He's not particularly smooth, though. He's just this thick, bald French dude. He's only 37, but he's moving these days a little like he's a little bit older than that. And so, so that's Hedy. So who knows what exactly he's bringing here. Makowski, people know sort of from the indies and things like that. But Rich, did you know that he is a former MMA fighter with a 6-2 record?
Ooh, I didn't. Okay, that changes everything, because I was about ready to write down Hedy here winning this. I did not know Matt Makowski was actually an MMA fighter. Okay.
He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he has, honest to goodness, the weirdest entry on his MMA record that I have ever seen in my life.
Okay.
On May 31st, 2008, he defeated Nick Serra, who I believe is brother of Matt Serra, the guy famous for knocking out GSP in the biggest upset of all time. He defeats Nick Serra by, and I quote, "wouldn't get up from butt scoot."
Excuse me? Excuse me?
So what happened was, his opponent is a jiu-jitsu guy, and Makowski was piecing him up on the feet.
Okay.
And his opponent gets knocked down, and he stays on his butt, and he's trying to draw him in, no, come in, let's grapple. And Makowski says, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm piecing you up on the feet. Stand up." And so the ref tells him, "You got to stand up." And the guy just keeps scooting at him on his butt to try to tie him up and bring him down, which I don't know if anyone's ever tried to do that to you. It's pretty easy to get away from.
You back up slowly, and you're pretty much okay, yeah.
And so he refused to stand up, and the ref waved the fight off.
Incredible. And so the official term is butt scoot? Are we sure? Is that what the...
So it officially is listed on SureDog, which is kind of the most official MMA website. They list it as a DQ win by wouldn't get up from butt scoot.
Incredible. What a find. Is this available, by the way, as well?
I don't know. It might be somewhere. I'd have to look. It did take place on a notable show, but it was in the prelim. So it took place.
Okay, that could be tough then.
Yeah, the show it was on was actually the first MMA show to ever air on network television. It was Elite XC Primetime on CBS.
Oh, was that the Herschel Walker?
No, this one was it was Kimbo Slice in the main event against James Thompson. And it was Gina Carano's debut on a main card for Elite XC, I believe.
Well, someone's got to find this, hopefully, if they can, because that is an incredible. I mostly I want to know if the referee, if the announcer, if that was the terminology used by everybody. It had to be, because it went into some official record as, and I'm looking at it right now too, SureDog.com, Matt Mikowski, DQ, parentheses, wouldn't get up from butt scoot. So that's that's the official, not DQ, and then that's it. Just, yeah, yep. I love it. I love it. I love that there's no referee listed as well, so it's kind of this vague, some party or body said that, this is incredible. What a find. Thank you.
Let me check here. Oh, I got to type in my password here. I'm going to check UFC Fight Pass and see if indeed this show is...
Elite XC Primetime, May 31st, 2008. I'm looking... Yeah, unbelievable. That's awesome.
Let's see here.
And that was it. That's it. That was it for Nick Serra. He decided, fuck this. This is stupid. And he's done. He never
like,
fights
I'm
again.
done. I'm not doing this anymore. All right, here we go. Premier MMA. Somehow, Elite XC not listed.
Damn it.
I don't believe so. Unfortunately, it does not appear. We'll scroll a little bit more here because, of course, if this is available, you have to run and see it. But I'm not seeing it anywhere, and I don't know if that would have even aired. Oh, wait, here we go.
Uh-oh.
Elite XC Primetime. They only have the main card. Unfortunate.
Okay, so if you look up, I will tell people, if you look up wouldn't get up from butt scoot on on Twitter, there is a GIF of it. It's weird. Okay, did you watch the GIF of this at all?
I haven't. No.
I'm even more confused now. So they're both standing up, actually. And Matt Serra just falls on his ass. And then the referee just calls it. It's so weird. I don't know anything about fighting. He takes a bump. I am flabbergasted here. But yeah, if you look up, you should probably just do this now. I need your, you understand fighting. I need your, type in wouldn't get up from butt scoot on Twitter, and I think you'll be able to find it. Or you know what's probably better? We're in a chat room right now. I will send it to you as we speak. Much easier than me telling you to do this. Okay, it's from Mike's MMA Picks. Is the Twitter account.
Let's see this here.
I need your official.
Oh, he just falls.
Well, he took a bump. Was there some
So it appeared that what he was trying to do there was fake, like he's throwing a kick. Like, I'm trying to throw a kick, and he attempts to throw a very lazy kick. And then
so your theory that the referee's like, come on, you got to stand up.
Yeah.
So he stands up for half a second, throws a really weak looking kick, and then goes back into the.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Because you can see Matt Mikowski at the same time, puts his hands up in the air, like, come on, man, what are you doing? Let's go. Awesome.
Yep.
Incredible.
That's
incredible.
Pretty amazing.
And then Nick Serra said, I'm good. I'm going to go do something else in my life. So, all right. So there you go. So
jiu-jitsu to children. So.
Who knew that this match between a bald French guy and Matt Mikowski had so much background and so much history there. Wow. I'm actually now looking forward to this match a ton. And, I don't know who shoot fight wise.
Shoot fight Matt Mikowski
for sure is an actual fighter, yeah, and not just Inoki. Because Inoki had this long thing where and people that where he liked guys that were like, oh, he's a fighter and a wrestler, but more times than not, those guys got their ass fucking handed to them in any real fight.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Matt Mikowski in a runaway going to win this one for sure. So, and I'm also going to guess Mikowski in the working sense too, but I don't know. Inoki is on his deathbed though, so maybe if you want to give him one last,
one last thing.
Yeah, you might want to. And it is Barnett. Oh man,
that's true.
Fuck yeah, I think Heddy's might be winning this one.
You can always build Mikowski back up. On
Exactly.
The next one.
Right. All right, let's move on here to two names that should be familiar with a lot of people listening to this: Alex Coughlin and Royce Isaac. So Alex Coughlin, obviously the New Japan talent that's been over in doing New Japan Strong over in LA, as well has been participating in the recent Bloodsports. And Royce Isaacs, former NWA wrestler, also been pretty frequent in the more recent Bloodsports. So where do you have this match going in terms of both a working and a shooting sense between these two?
Well, so working sense, this is actually a rematch from Bloodsport 5. They're running it back. And so the story was Coughlin came in with an injured neck, Now he's saying, I'm 100%. You won't be able to get me again. Isaacs is saying it was no fluke. I'm going to do it again. So the first match was exactly what I want from Bloodsport. It was dudes dropping each other on their heads, grabbing sick holds, slapping each other around. And this match work-wise is like perfect for me on this show, where you've got a story. It's a very simple story of, hey, you beat me, but I was hurt, so you're never going to beat me again. And now the other guy's going to prove, no, I am going to beat you. And that's that. And the match is going to be good because the last one was good. With the pool of wrestlers and the shows and everything this WrestleMania weekend, honestly, I could see this match being a top 10 match of the weekend. I'd go that far.
And they're two guys, and I'm right with you. These are two guys that try their, really hard, like really work their ass off. Royce Isaacs always was that way, and Alex Coughlin is the same way too. So I'm with you. They have some actual story here, like you said. There's a rematch, so there's that built-in sort of equity there of like these two guys know each other. These guys have it, and yeah, there's no reason that especially looking at this card, like there's not a lot of other matches that really stand out to me. So it's very possible those guys look at the card and say, hey, look, we have the opportunity to really stand out here and really bust our ass and make it this something special. So I'm with you. I think this has a lot of potential to be really, really, really good. And I'm very, very excited to see what happens in that match. As far as a shoot, I think Coughlin I would pick, but they're pretty even, I'd say. Kind of a flip of the coin in a shooting sense.
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to go Isaacs on this one.
Oh, okay. All right.
And here's why. So Alex Coughlin and, dojo guy for New Japan out there training with Shibata, who I'm sure is kicking him around and he's getting some good work in. However, Royce Isaacs, NCAA heavyweight wrestler at Cornell.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, never mind. Royce Isaacs in a runaway for sure. Okay.
So I got to think that, they're rounds about the same size. I think Royce Isaacs probably roughs him up there.
Well, I apologize to Royce Isaacs then. I did not know. Yeah, if you're any level of college wrestler, you could pretty much beat any human being.
Yes.
Other than people that are above you in Division 1 and one NCAA titles. But yeah, if you're even a high school wrestler at most points could more times than not, but especially college wrestler, yeah, forget it. It's over here. Two men that I don't know that any of them have any shoot fighting experience whatsoever, but a match I am very excited about nonetheless. Rocky Romero versus Chavo Guerrero Jr. This came out of nowhere with Chavo Guerrero getting booked on Bloodsport. One of my favorite bookings of the entire weekend. Chavo Guerrero in a shoot fight.
I love it. This is going to be so much fun. And you're actually wrong. Rocky Romero does indeed have 30 seconds of real fight experience.
You're right. I forgot. Speaking of Inoki sending his guys in to die, Rocky Romero. Yeah.
He got knee barred in 30 seconds in Brazil for a promotion called Jungle Fight in 2004.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, I mean, Rocky, he's been everywhere. He's got that MMA submission kick heavy style. His match against Grimm is one of the matches where I would say, the opponent really helped Grimm step it up for a Bloodsport match. A really good, fun, exciting match. And Rocky did so many little things in that match that no one else even thinks to do. Like he played into the fact that he's never done this before. So Grimm gets him in a hold, and what's Rocky do? He goes to reach for the ropes, but the ropes aren't there. And now he's got to figure out another way to get out of the hold. And it was just like little things like that that don't necessarily think to do that I thought he did really well. And I mean, Chavo, what can you say about Chavo? He's a legend. Everybody knows who he is. He's as sound a fundamentals guy as you're going to find. This has a chance to, again, be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think that a lot of it is going to depend. I have no worry about Rocky whatsoever. I think Rocky knows what he's doing. Like you said, if you look at what he did in Bloodsport, he was able to kind of adhere to the style very well. He's a guy who definitely gets it, understands the concept, understands everything. That would be my only reservation about Chavo is, does he understand kind of what Bloodsport is all about? Is he aware of kind of what it's about? Is he aware of how he should tailor his game towards that? Or is he going to go out there and just try to work a normal match, but then also kind of try to, patchwork in like a fake shoot fight? That's my biggest thing. I don't know. we'll know pretty quickly. We'll know a few seconds into this match what kind of Chavo Guerrero we're going to get, and I think that will determine it. Because if it's a Chavo that gets it, that understands, oh, I get this concept, oh, no problem, or is aware of it, or watched the old Bloodsports, and has been talking to Rocky or whatever, this has a chance, I think, to be really, really good. Because like you said, that wrestling psychology could really work out in this sense. And these are two guys that obviously get that. A lot of it's going to be what effort Chavo's going to bring in, and how much he gets the concept of Bloodsport. And if he does, I think it has a chance to be really, really, really good. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
We don't know how much experience Chavo has with the Yave style.
Right. Yeah, we don't know. He's watching his tapes right now, of course. Yeah, he's pouring through his Negro Navarro tapes right now to try to figure out what to do here. I mean, he might. I don't know. I mean, yeah, he's Chavo.
Maybe?
Like, yeah, it's. I wouldn't put it past Chavo. I mean, he's a guy, and he's definitely a guy who always like knew where he was and worked to the level of where he was. Because you could tell in some of those WWE days, he knew. He's like, they don't want me to do anything. I'm just going to go in there and
I'm Kerwin White.
Right. Yeah, nobody gives a shit. But then you see him in other places, and sometimes he does put some pretty good effort in there. So I'm very excited to see what happens here. I'll move on to the women's side here.
Oh, wait.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, shoot fight. Ooh.
What do you think?
I think this just ends with, like, after like 30 minutes, and then they just stop, and then they just get drinks together or something. Like, I don't see these men ever really fighting. Like, you know what I mean? Chavo seems like a very nice guy, and Rocky's like way too nice as well. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine these men fighting. I just can't.
Like, I don't know how much like cardio Rocky's still got in the tank. Like, you've only ever seen him do things in short bursts, so this might just be like two uncles fighting at the family barbecue,
right? And then eventually, like, everyone's just like, all right, guys, come on, and then they get up and then they just drink beers together without their shirts
Exactly.
on, and it's like, yeah, cool.
They end up in a double headlock, and they're both just too tired to move. Who knows?
That's, yeah, unfortunately I can't give a winner. The winner is all of us for watching them, and yeah, you're right. The old uncles, they shirts are off. It's like, an outdoor barbecue, and then it's 20 minutes later they're just back, chilling, sitting, talking about the fight, type stuff out of it. So let's move on to the women's one of the women's matches here. Allison K versus Masha Slamovich. What can you tell us about Allison K versus Masha Slamovich?
So Allison K's been on a few of the Bloodsport shows. She was part of that tournament. Did she win that tournament? I don't remember. At the Super Spreader event.
I think she did, but let me clarify that.
Oh no, she didn't. She lost to Lindsay Snow in the final.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Okay.
So yeah, she's done a few matches. They've always kind of underwhelmed me because I like. She's this bigger gal that seems tough. And so I always want her to be this, serious butt-kicking bully. And I never feel like I really get that from her. And then kind of in the same vein, I don't know. I've only watched a little bit of Masha. I watched one of her matches with Layla Hirsch. And it was a 10-minute match that felt like it was 20 minutes long. But what was interesting was Layla ate her lunch in that match. Like, charisma-wise, work-wise, Masha sort of got this strong woman vibe, but then nothing that she does actually looks that tough.
Yeah, the name and the look is awesome. And you're like, oh, she's going to rule. And then she comes out and it's just kind of... I'm right with you. It's very, very underwhelming of what I've seen from her so far. But it seems like she has all the she's got all of that part of it. Like, she understands the look. She understands like the name. She understands like the she carries herself that way. But like you said, the second the bell rings, it's just kind of like, oh, all right. It just kind of gets lost a little bit. So that is worrying. That is definitely a little worrisome in this match. And I'm right with you on the Allison K thing as well. So yeah, I don't know. This would be a good opportunity for them to both kind of prove us wrong and just go out there and really beat the hell out of each other and show what they can do. But I have the same thought that you did, so I'm going in very, very cautiously optimistic about this one.
I could see this kind of being, it's modern Kojima versus modern Tenzan, but then also in slow motion. It's kind of what I'm thinking it might look like.
The thing with Allison K is I know that she like trains MMA, but it's like, to me, and I don't mean to disparage anybody who does it. I don't mean to disparage her at all, but she definitely, the way that she participates in these blood sports, it looks like somebody who, like, trains MMA for cardio and for workouts and kind of does what she would do in like a class or whatever, but she does it in this, and I think it always looks weird. It always looks like she's kind of thinking her next step while the match or the fight is going on or whatever. And it comes across looking, as you said, really kind of slow and plodding, and it's just kind of, you can sense like her trainer telling her, okay, now transition to this, okay, now we're gonna do this type stuff, where it never feels like it's natural for her when she's in these.
Yeah, exactly. Totally agree.
So as far as the shoot fight, I don't know. I mean, Allison K obviously has the size advantage, but like you said, I think Masha, I don't know. I'm honestly not sure. I know Allison does train a little bit, but I don't know nothing about the background of Masha. So
this is just going totally by feel. I feel like Allison would have more want to, and so that would be my pick.
All right, move on now. A few more matches here. Lio Rush versus Yoya. What can you tell us about Yoya? I think everybody knows about Lio Rush. We understand Lio Rush. What the hell can you tell us about Yoya?
So Yoya is very tiny. Leo is going to be significantly larger than this man. Yoya is 5'2", 118. So he is too small for any weight class that the UFC has. He is capable at the technical part of wrestling, but he's still obviously a little green. He's only been a wrestler for 2 years. So, things like putting a match together and things like that, he's not quite there yet, but I've seen him, he does moves and they look good. But here's the thing for him. He has a background in Taekwondo going back to 8th or 9th grade.
Oh,
and so,
okay, yeah.
So he's this is a show perfectly set for him. And Lio Rush is his dream opponent. Out of everyone in the world, he was like, I want Lio Rush.
It's awesome.
And he didn't even tell that to Josh Barnett. He told that to someone else. And then he saw GCW tweet out the match graphic for him versus Lio Rush. And that's how he found out that this match was happening.
That's an awesome story. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm looking at him right now, and yeah, he is a tiny, tiny man, a very small, very skinny man. But yeah, I'm actually. So if when you tell me that, which I did not know, if he's going in with a bunch of effort and Lio Rush knows that this is a guy that really looks up to him, I could see this being awesome. And Lio Rush is definitely a guy who can sometimes be hit or miss. But when he's not doing the black heart thing, when he's not doing his kind of over the top, I used to be in WWE gimmick, and he's just Lio Rush, the independent wrestler, he usually brings his A game. So I am very much looking forward to this match now, knowing that Yoya looks up to him in that way, and that Yoya's got a real background as well. So it's it'll be an interesting thing that Lio Rush can probably put the match together in a way, but I think Yoya might kind of lead the charge because he actually knows how to make it look, natural and look good and do all that sort of stuff. So I'm into this now. I'm into this, and I like Lio Rush playing the heavy here role. He could very rarely play, but as the big man Lio Rush, I'm interested to see how this works out.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a sneaky contender for match of the night. They both have good footwork, so they're going to use a lot of that. Should be fast-paced, a lot of counters, a lot of kicks. I could see this looking like a, match from the actual Bloodsport movie or something like that, where just sort of totally unrealistic Taekwondo or something like that. Yeah, I think this is going to be really fun.
In a shoot fight sense, there's no doubt that Yo-Yo would destroy Lio.
Oh, yeah, I think he wrecks him. I don't think Lio Rush has any background at all.
I don't think so either. So, 3 more matches here. Schlack versus Super Beast.
Here we go.
Yeah. So, Schlack is here. That's a thing.
Well, I will say this about Schlack. I have seen death matches where he's used amateur wrestling holds before. So, that's kind of weird, but there's that. He is a little more athletic than he looks, I guess. Got a feeling he's going to gas here because every time I've seen him, he's gassed.
Will a light tube be used in Bloodsport for the first time ever? Yes or no? That's it.
Ooh, it would be interesting. If anybody, I feel like Super Beast is the guy to kind of bring it out of him.
Right, yeah. And you can totally see, Schlack, is no, it's Bloodsport, it's a fight. And then Super Beast comes out with a light tube, and Schlack's like, all right, I didn't know we were doing that. Let's do that. And they just hit each other with light tubes for a few minutes, and then, a Fujiwara armbar or something like that to end a match or so. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea about any of these men's history. I have no idea what to expect here. I'm very, very curious what this is going to be and how it's going to look.
It's going to be sloppy and awkward in a way that could either be terrible or it could be very entertaining.
Yes, with no in between. There's like literally no chance that it's just like a boring, yeah, that was a match that existed. It's either going to be absolutely awesome, the best thing on Bloodsport, or the absolute worst thing and absolute, just flies in the face of everything that Bloodsport speaks for. Yeah, so we'll see here. Moving on now, KZT.
Oh, wait, but then shoot fight between the Schlack and the Super Beast. I mean, maybe the Super Beast. It's tough with the mask, but he looks like he's just more fit. So
I think from a pure fitness standpoint, I don't think, like you said, I don't think Schlack can actually like move more than like 2 feet or move for more than like 3 minutes at a time. So I think Super Beast would by mere attrition would probably win that one. So. All right, KZT versus Janai Kai.
So this is an interesting one. It was so freaking hard to find anything about this KZT person. What I ended up finding was I know way more about her career outside the ring than I know about her career inside the ring, because there is no trace of her. Cage Match has nothing. She was in Women of Wrestling, the new incarnation of that, owned by Jeannie Buss, owner of the Lakers.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So she's in that. She's part of a group called Exile, who is led by Malia Hosaka, throwback there. She works under the name Exodus there, but as far as I can tell, she's only appeared on one episode, and that was an episode where their group did a run-in on the tag champs. And that's it. And I can't find an even video of that run-in. Like, there's nothing. But I do know that she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
Okay.
And is fairly accomplished at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So she hasn't won anything at black belt, but she does have some legitimate wins at purple and brown. And so this isn't Dom Guarini rolling out there with his purple belt. This is a legitimate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So she's got that going for her. So that's pretty good.
And Janai Kai is a martial artist as well, correct?
Yes, she is a Taekwondo black belt.
Okay. All right.
She's actually in an intergender team with Yoya. They're called like Yokai. I did find out in my research, Janai Kai once competed on the sexiest show ever in a battle royal. She was in a battle royal.
Is that an official claim? Can they officially say that was the sexiest show ever? Do we know that?
I don't know, but that was the name of it.
Okay. All right.
But this battle royal.
Bold claim, but okay.
Right? I don't know what it did to... I don't want to know what the main event was. But the battle royal included... Rich, have you heard of the Puerto Rican hound dog?
I have not heard of the Puerto Rican hound dog, no.
Well, I can tell
Apparently
you that
sexy,
one of his signature moves, though, decidedly unsexy, is the pooper scooper. So basically, she does a lot of really showy kicks in the ring, and they look pretty good. What is really interesting is that her look is perfect for Bloodsport, because her normal ring gear, she looks ready for the Kumite. Like, she's got the tassels and the wrist tape and the whole deal and the headband and all of it. And so this is exactly meant for both of these women. They're perfect for this space. Yeah,
I'm looking up pictures of both these, and I am now way excited about this match that I did not know about at all. One sec. Okay, what?
I just wanted to tell you that at the pharmacy they fucked up. And I only paid for 1 month of birth control.
Fantastic, yeah.
And they gave me 3.
Oh, there you go. So, take that, pharmacy. Thank you for interrupting the show to tell us that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I'll be done in like 5 minutes if you want to discuss this further.
3 months of birth control for the price of 1.
There you go.
You know, when Obama was president, it was free.
Okay, all right. Take care. Sorry about that.
No problem.
All right, I'll pick it up. Yeah, looking at both of these women now, I'm very excited about this match because KZT looks pretty awesome. It looks like somebody who's definitely going to take this seriously. And Janai Kai, that is an awesome look. Yeah, she looks awesome. Right. Went in with zero expectations of this match, and now I absolutely cannot wait for this one. And this is one where I think it'll be interesting to see and test our theory that we were talking about at the beginning of, do you try to tell these women, hey, make it look as close as possible to what you would do in your actual training, or do you say, hey, do what you would do in a pro wrestling sense but turn it up to 10? Or I'm very, very interested in this one because these are like two of like legitimately look like the best looks and potentially like the most accomplished, definitely of the women's side, definitely the most accomplished of the actual women as well, with both being black belts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's this is as striker versus grappler as it gets. That's sort of the age old mixed martial arts, combat, and so I expect they're gonna work it that way for sure. The question will be, how realistic do they try to be? Do they try to have some fun with it? What's exactly that going to look like?
And then our main event. Shoot fight between these two. I don't know. Jiu-jitsu versus. I'm probably going to go to the jiu-jitsu person instead of the karate. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for that. People are going to get upset. Or taekwondo. Sorry, she's taekwondo. Yeah, I'm probably going to get some taekwondo person's going to get very upset. But if I said the taekwondo girl, some British jiu-jitsu guy would get really upset too. So I don't know.
Well, I mean. Presuming that Janai Kai doesn't have any jiu-jitsu or wrestling training, then yeah, KZT's gonna maul her in a real fight.
Because she do like a jump kick and then she just grab her leg and fucking submit her in 2 seconds, right?
We've seen what happens. Hoist Gracie was out there choking everybody for just UFC after UFC when the whole thing popped off. Like, of course, it's the jiu-jitsu player.
And then now, finally, our main event, the very, very highly anticipated match between Josh Barnett and Jon Moxley. What are you looking forward to in this match?
Oh man, I mean, this is so good. I'm so mad that I'm not going to be there live for this one because I was supposed to be last year, and it's going to rule. Like, I don't know how this could possibly not be awesome. And I'll say this about Moxley. And you've already seen him now in a couple Bloodsport matches, and they've been pretty good. And he let Davey Boy Smith elbow just the blood right out of his forehead in that one match, which was crazy. But Jon Moxley, even in AEW, I've found his grappling and all of that to be sneaky great. Like, I know he's training at Extreme Couture out there in Las Vegas where he lives. And man, give me that sort of realistic violence that he brings over a bunch of goofy holds any day. Like, man, I'll admit, I will own up to this. I liked the Hager match. I know almost no one else did. I went 4 flat. I really liked that match a lot. And it's because there was like a lot of good, realistic grappling, but it wasn't, at least for me, I didn't think it was too just, MMA simulation out there. But, his Dickinson match that he had, at first it kind of started that way, and then it got a little intense. And I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, this is all right. Oh, this is pretty good. Okay, actually, this match rules.
Yes, yeah. I was in the same life cycle in that match. And yeah, I think the thing that Moxley gets Bloodsport, I think, more than almost anybody else. Even probably more than Josh Barnett does as well. Like, because he goes out there and he just tries his ass off, and nothing like like you said, nothing looks technically like perfect. But you believe that when you're watching this, that it is Jonathan Good, the man playing Jon Moxley, that's just like, all right, let's do this thing. You know what I mean? Like, he pretends you believe that in his mind he believes that this is kind of a shoot fight. But also kind of, he'll rear back on some certain, but like, yeah, he's not out there like really being technically sound, but he knows enough to make it look pretty good. And he knows enough to kind of try and work it. So yeah, he more than, again, anybody else, I think, gets Bloodsport, understands Bloodsport, and just excels at the style. And even though the guy probably isn't that much of a real badass, because he's such a badass pro wrestling character, that he's able to kind of make it appear as so when he's in these kind of pseudo shoot fight things. So yeah, Moxley is just the best in these. I anticipate every single match that he has in Bloodsport, and this one, I mean, especially against Josh Barnett, who is probably going to be kind of the try hard, and I mean this in a good way. I mean this in definitely the best way possible. The guy who's going to go out there and be the try hard, John, you don't know what you're doing out here. You don't know what you're doing. And Moxley, will take him down or something just by pure guile, and that'll piss off Josh Barnett, and then things will kind of go from there. And that I'm way looking forward to.
Well, and both of these men are insane. Like, I think just legitimately have screws loose. And so it, much like the Suzuki match that Barnett had, where they just were legit just hitting each other in the face as hard as they could for stretches of that. I see no reason why that's not happening here. Like, if they both come out of this bleeding, I'm not going to be even a little surprised. They're just going to go out there and just go to war. It's going to be complete insanity.
I cannot wait. Yeah, great main event, highly anticipated. I it sucks that obviously last year happened, but now we're like, a year and a half in the making on this match. Moxley chomping at the bit to do this match. Barnett obviously trying to do it as well. So yeah, I cannot wait to see this main event, and I'm not even going to dignify the who would win a shoot fight question with the response here, because it's clearly Jon Moxley, Jonathan Good, former deathmatch wrestler, of course.
I mean, he's former AEW champion.
Yeah, he's a world champion. Recently, Josh Barnett, he won his IWGP title years ago. So yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Jon Moxley would wet the floor with Josh Barnett. But yeah, we don't even need to mention that one. I think Barnett would win in about 4 seconds, maybe.
It would be short. Yes, yeah. It would be very short.
Would not be very long. So that is Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6. I think we've discussed every possible angle of this show. Jeremy, what overall, what can we? Let's say there's somebody listening that has never watched a Bloodsport before. What do you think, at least with your best guess, that we're gonna? What will you take away from this Bloodsport 6 when you're done watching it?
I think the takeaways are going to be that with some of the names that are on this show that we're talking about and saying, like, actually, this match sounds really fun. They were people that I had never heard of before I started researching this. So I think one of the sneaky takeaways from this show may be, actually, there is some hope on the indies, that there are some people floating around still, even after the talent raids. Now, granted, after this show, they're probably all going to get signed by AEW or WWE, so maybe that won't last too long. I think that will be one. And then I think, too, that I think this show's just going to be fun, is what I'm hoping. That if you're looking for a show that you can just enjoy, this hopefully is going to be it. It's hopefully going to have the hottest crowd. This will probably be the largest crowd outside of maybe Spring Break, although now who knows what's going on with Spring Break. And so, yeah, I think this Bloodsport's going to be the show that you watch, and there's going to be a whole bunch of people there getting COVID, and you're going to feel like, man, wrestling's coming back.
Yeah, on paper, I was actually a little bit. I always anticipate a Bloodsport, especially during WrestleMania weekend. I think it's one of the more fun events. I went to one live, and it was probably my second or third favorite show that weekend, only because I saw fucking New Japan Pro Wrestling at Madison Square Garden or whatever. So it's it's hard to kind of compete with that. And I saw a really, really good TakeOver. But right after that was Bloodsport. It's just a totally different atmosphere and a really, really cool thing that these guys do. And even in light of in the last year, the pseudo shoot work thing that's kind of been popping up with a lot of indies as well, with Paradigm. And what's actually interesting about this weekend as well, and we did not talk about it yet, is that you have a few ICW doing their No Holds Barred Pit Fighter series here, and they're doing 2 shows with that, and some other companies that have kind of started to dabble a little bit in this style. It's still, to me, Bloodsport does stand out above those, and I think the production values, the names, and all that sort of stuff does stand out to me and does kind of differentiate themselves from the competition, like Paradigm, and as I said, ICW doing this No Holds Barred Pit Fighter stuff, and a few other companies. But yeah, there's definitely a pressure now for Bloodsport to continue to deliver on these shows, because there are so many other companies kind of doing the same sort of style and the same sort of thing that Bloodsport is. I mean, it is indicative of them to just continue to bring the A game and make their shows blow away shows. So I'm hoping that this one on Thursday, April 8th, is exactly the same as well. So
absolutely.
So Jeremy, before we go, do you want to get your plugs out of the way, and then people can follow you and read your work or your musings?
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Jeremy Sexton, where I will only disappoint you. And Yeah, I write intermittently for Voices of Wrestling, and occasionally repair the website. And yeah,
thank you by the way for that. Yes,
and yeah, that's if I have something, it'll be on the Twitter, and I'll share it all around, and you can see it wherever it goes. That's my plugs.
There you go. Anyway, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6, obviously a part of the collective, streaming on Fight TV, also on the Fight Collective package. Cuban Club, Thursday, April 8th at 8 p.m. Jeremy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Support for the Voices of Wrestling WrestleMania Weekend previews also come from our friends at ExpressVPN, the world's largest premium VPN service provider, founded all the way back in 2009, one of the most reliable VPNs you can find. Over 3,000 servers in 160 VPN server locations in over 94 countries. Easy-to-use apps for Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS, as well as platforms that other VPN companies do not support. Linux, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, routers, browser extensions for Chrome and Firefox. It is the only provider that unblocks streaming services, not just on the VPN, but also using media streamer on devices like Apple TV, PlayStation, Xbox, and smart TVs. ExpressVPN has best-in-class encryption and allows you to access content anywhere, free of geo-restrictions. Use it on Disney+, Hulu, HBO Max, Netflix, and most importantly, WWE Network. So if you're ready to ditch Peacock, you're not really loving what you're seeing out of Peacock, ExpressVPN can help you. Voicesofwrestling.com/express is how you can sign up today. Access WWE Network from anywhere in the world that's not America, because we're stuck with Peacock right now. So anyway, blazing fast speeds, 24/7 customer support through their live chat, unconditional 30-day money-back guarantee. So if things do not work for you, you can't get it to work, their support chat can't help you. Unconditional 30-day money-back guarantee. You can also have 5 simultaneous connections as well. Huge network, as we said, of VPN servers. Works on every device. Works on Netflix. World-class privacy and security. Unblocks popular services. You can stream sports directly as well if you're an MLB fan. Obviously, we mentioned this with MLB kicking off hot and heavy. Great opportunity to do, hey, you're in your local market, you can't watch an MLB TV. That's not true. You can watch with Express VPN. They also have a wide range of payment methods, including international credit cards, PayPal, Bitcoin, Union Pay, Alipay, and all the other good stuff as well. You can sign up on your terms, as well as they have year plans, 1-month plans, additional shorter plans as well. So whatever you want to do, whatever plan wants to work for you, they will make it work. Again, as we said, 30-day unconditional money-back guarantee and 24/7 customer support through live chat. So ExpressVPN can get you back to your normal WWE network and can do so much more for you as well. Voicesofwrestling.com/express is how you're going to get started there. Voicesofwrestling.com/express is how you get started on ExpressVPN. We thank them, of course, for their support of the WrestleMania Weekend preview series. All right, and our guest now is Kevin Hare. You can follow him on Twitter at Stan__Hansen. Kevin, what's going on?
How's it going, Rich?
Not too bad, not too bad. So as I'm doing with all of these, I want to get your experiences with WrestleMania Weekend, actually attending a WrestleMania Weekend. And with you, I know that you've been, like a lot of people I'm saying, hey, have you ever been to WrestleMania Weekend? I'm fairly certain you were at one because I sat next to you at a show for 4 hours. So
yes,
I know for a fact you were in New York. So I know you were at that WrestleMania Weekend. Did you go to any others except for that one?
Yeah, so I've been to 5.
Whoa, okay. I thought you were going to say 2 or 5. Damn, all right.
I think it was the first New York, Dallas, Orlando, New Orleans, and then the last New York. The last New York, I was only there for 2 days, so it wasn't quite like the other weekends where I did everything, but I mean, it counts.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's what are some of your favorite memories of actually attending a WrestleMania weekend? You were not going this year, right? I don't think anybody.
Right.
I don't think anybody we know is going.
Right.
So.
I was going to go to last year. I had everything sorted, but obviously nobody went. And then this year, a friend of mine lives there, so I think he might be going to some of the stuff. So he was like, "Hey, you should come." And I'm like, you know what? I'm good.
2022, baby.
Yeah,
I'll be there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's California, so maybe not even that one either, because that's a whole different. That seems like it would be a bit overwhelming. But but yeah, I mean, it just not even that. Like, I just don't want to. The WrestleMania weekend is like so cool to me. It's been such a like great that I don't want one that's like halfway. So even though like I want to go back to things, even beyond just the obvious, just on a selfish level, like I don't want it to be halfway. So,
absolutely.
But my favorite, Dallas and New Orleans were both incredible. Dallas was kind of peak as far as like a perfect storm of a lot of guys that were about to break out, or a lot of things that were about to break out, just all convalescing, and everything was NXT, Evolve, and Ring of Honor and High Spots were all within like a 5 to 10 minute walk from each other. So it was incredible where you could just camp out there, go see everything, and then it was awesome. I think that New Orleans was better. New Orleans was the coolest town ever for WrestleMania. I think everyone should be there. When this is all over, I think WWE owes it to everybody to go back there. But I don't know if they will. But like cool city, obviously, and then the shows were all. It was the peak spring break show. It was the kind of the last hurrah for Evolve. It was the biggest High Spots weekend with WrestleCon and stuff. So it's just like everything just kind of. It feels like a lot of ways like we're 2 or 3 years on, and it feels kind of the peak of the Indies. If not the peak of the Indies, kind of like the last stand, as we are right now, because you had Progress when it was still around, and you had Walter there. You had it kind of felt like the last one where everything was just like important and big. Where last year was a little bit more watered down, and then 2019 was a little more watered down, and then this year's.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's what I remember vividly about that WrestleMania weekend is that the Progress was there. I think Rev Pro was there, Evolve was there, Ring of Honor. You know what I mean? It was just like the absolute. And then you also had like kind of this growing other scene with Game Changer Wrestling and with Joey Janela's Spring Break. And it's like, oh, you have like the established indies that have been doing this now for 4, 5, 6 years or whatever at this point, or in some cases like a decade with Ring of Honor. And they're all putting on big shows. And now you have this other little guy that's now kind of growing and growing and growing. And like you said, that 1 year, that felt like, that 2018 year felt like the Joey Janela Spring Break. I think that's funny. God only knows what year it is anymore at this point.
I know.
2019
I said last year
is ridiculous. Yeah, you're going to say last year a bunch. He means 2019. I'm going to say last year a bunch. I mean 2019 as well. But I forgot with New Orleans, I did not go to Ring of Honor, but it was the biggest Ring of Honor show of all time. And I did go to NXT, which was one of the best, if not the best NXT shows of all time too. So it was just like all sorts of, it was just kind of the perfect storm where, and at the time you like, oh yeah, this is a big weekend. And then in hindsight, you just kind of step back and be like, I can't believe how crazy that weekend was. Yeah, that Joey Janela Spring Break too. I'm kind of looking at the card now as we're going through here. I mean, the main event, obviously, the Janela Great Sasuke. I mean, that just stands for itself. The clusterfuck, which was a hell of a lot of fun this year as well. PCO and Walter, like one of the bigger indie matches that entire year. Really, kind of a game changing, for that guy. And then Nick Gage versus Pentagon Jr. Penta L0M or whatever the hell. I think that's what he was called at that time too.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
There's also a David Starr Mike Quackenbush match, but we'll just pass over that one.
Well, at the time it was good.
It was great. Fantastic.
Was cool,
two tremendous wrestlers, two not tremendous human beings, but
I was thinking here, I'm like, I'm about to tell Rich that like the first half of that show was like one of the best shows of all time. Like it was, the second half wasn't great, but the first half was special. But I kind of forgot one of the reasons why.
Yeah, right. There's also Matt Riddle versus James Ellsworth too. So there was, it wasn't the best. I mean, good, a lot of good wrestlers that we have come to find are not maybe the best human beings in the world. But so speaking of, we're talking Spring Break here. Let's jump to the 2022 version of Spring Breaks. Now, this is the first year, if I'm remembering correctly, because the first year out of 2017. That was Joey Janela's Spring Break. And every other one since then has been officially Joey Janela's Spring Break. Mm-hmm. They're breaking from that branding on this year's show. And I would say for a pretty decent reason. But I'll see, what you think about it as well. Right now we're doing our Spring Break 5. And if you actually look at the graphics, you look at everything, it's RSP Spring Break. So it's for Ricky Shane Page, and it says it's sponsored by or presented by 44 Ohio. So you got that in there. You got all the kind of the RSP branding around there. What do you think about it not being Joey Janela Spring Break anymore? Moving away from Joey Janela Spring Break. He's on the show. Like, he's on the show. He's still an important part of the show. But what do you think about going the direction of making Ricky Shane Page and you know, just kind of taking it, not necessarily taking it away from Joey Janela, but at least going in a different direction with the branding?
Well, they did take it away from Joey Janela, because the reason why it's RSP is because Janela and RSP had a match last month for the belt, and the stipulation was if Janela lost, then Ricky Shane Page got Spring Break. So at least kayfabe wise, that's why it's RSP Spring Break, Spring Break, whatever, however they're branding it. So I feel like it's going to end somehow with Janela getting it back, but I don't know for sure. I think it makes sense this year. You know, maybe to the casual fan or somebody just dropping in, you might not really realize what's like understand why it's RSP or know who RSP is or anything like that. But I think that really within the canon of GCW and with the one major storyline they've really had for the past few years, I think that it does make sense that, you know, the last thing that RSP could take away from the fans is Spring Break. So, of course, might as well do it, especially this year when who knows what WrestleMania weekend really looks like, and you're probably not worried as much about fans being there. If there was ever to be a year to kind of change the direction a little bit, you might as well try this year. So
yeah, and
it's fine with me.
Yeah, I kind of agree as well, because one of the points I was going to bring up here is you go and look at past, you know, Joey Janela Spring Breaks, and, you know, the original one was like, you know, Dan Severn and Matt Riddle and Marty Jannetty and those sort of guys that were in there. It kind of established from the opening, you know, of the entire series that, you know, there's going to be, you know, good indie matches that, you know, kind of fit into the GCW, you know, family or whatnot, but they're also going to bring in some old stars. They're going to have some fun like that. And like you said, the Apex probably bringing great Sasuke in there and having, you know, Joey Janela and Sasuke go to a 25-30 minute match or whatever after, you know, 4-hour show or whatever the hell at 4 a.m. It was just like the pure, you know, whatever Joey Janela Spring Break's going to be.
Getting back to the hotel at 5 a.m. I think it was.
Right, but that's, you know, that's kind of what it is. You know, it feels like it belongs there. And then Spring Break, you know, obviously in 2019 had, you know, its ups and downs. I think, you know, doing it as a 2-part show maybe hurt it a little bit. But, you know, you had Taka Michinoku there. You had, you know, Virgil, who showed up as, you know, Starman for a brief moment as well. Shinjiro Otani was there. Like, there was enough of the older guys in there to make it fun. And
especially that one was a lot of the, like, kind of the appealing to the cool internet, like, Japanese wrestling fan, especially the first night of it. So they brought in, and then the main event had Takeda in it, and that was also the Invisible Man versus the Invisible Stan match. So
it always kind of felt like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, going back to what you're saying, then the one last year during the Collective, it was more of just like what we would expect like an indie super show from a few years ago to be like. It wasn't really as much like the other shows with bringing in weird matches and stuff. It was just kind of almost like a PWG type of show.
Right. And that I think why I agree with you that it's probably the best year to do this story, not only because Ricky Shane Page, obviously, and we'll talk about the main event here right now. Not only is he like one of the biggest stories and part of the biggest storylines of, you know, GCW and of the independents right now, arguably the top story going on in the independents, the longest running story going on in the independents. So it works from that level too, but it also kind of works because this show on paper, it doesn't feel like those other Joey Janela Spring Breaks, and it really can't feel like that. You know what I mean? There was always that a little bit of an international flair to the other Joey Janela Spring Breaks. There was always a little bit of the throwback flair to the other Spring Breaks. This one doesn't have that. There's some fun matchups on here. There's some interesting things, but again, it just feels like kind of your run-of-the-mill indie show. So it might be the best year to kind of say, hey, well, this is kind of weird. So it's like not necessarily Joey Janela Spring Break. It's a Spring Break show, but it's not him. And like, there's ways that in kayfabe you can kind of play it off as well to so people know that the lineage of the Joey Janela Spring Break will hopefully still live on after this, but that this was kind of a 1-year weird sort of break thing. And I don't mind that story if that's, you know, how they want to sell it, because its card's good. I like the card. Like, on paper, there's some stuff that I'm really excited about. It doesn't feel like a Joey Janela Spring Break, though. It feels like a totally different show.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. It doesn't. I mean, Joey Janela, it wasn't as much like the New York year because that was when he was coming back. But generally, it was built around a Joey Janela dream match type of thing. And this year is not that. So even just that right there is kind of a different direction.
So let's talk about a few of the matches on this show. So one match that recently just got announced. I know we're pretty excited about this one. Gringo Loco, Black Taurus, and Erez versus Laredo Kid, Dragon Bane, and Aramis. That sounds awesome. That seems that to me feels like a little bit more of the Joey Janela Spring Break throwback, where you would have your ha fun matches, but you would also have like, oh, this match is going to be fucking awesome. Like it's just going to be a bunch of guys that do shit. And this is certainly your bunch of guys do shit match of the Spring Break show for sure.
Yeah, this is not just a Spring Break type of match, but like, the WrestleCon Super shows, they would always have like one or two like just crazy lucha matches or multi-man matches. It's the same type of thing. This is kind of the version of it. So I think that this really fits into the lineage of the WrestleMania multi-man match, like from Dragon Gate and Ring of Honor through the WrestleCon shows, through everything there. Like this is the type of match that you go to WrestleMania weekend for.
Absolutely.
Just to see, you're not going to see these guys anywhere else. A lot of them, people know their names, but especially after 2020 where nobody's really able to see them live, they haven't quite journeyed into the indie mainstream yet. So this is going to be one of those matches that is just going to be crazy.
Yeah, and you usually look for every WrestleMania weekend, like you mentioned. Like there's going to be those guys that, like you said, your hardcore fans, your people that watch everything know those guys, but like there might be somebody that's watching, a indie show just to watch an indie show that finds out about Black Taurus and goes, holy shit, who's this guy? This guy's awesome. Right. Or, sees a Laredo Kid for the first time or sees an Erez for the first time. So there's a lot of real fun that can come from this match. So yeah, I'm right with you. This feels, this match belongs on any WrestleMania weekend. This feels like a very pure WrestleMania weekend show. So I'm excited to see that. This one is a very interesting one as well. This is the combined age of the two components, I believe about 25 years old, I think here, with Starboy Charlie and Billy Starks here. This is arguably the youngest match I think even remotely possible that you could book for WrestleMania weekend, right? Like you couldn't book any younger other than booking like literal children, and they're pretty close to literal children, if not actually literally children. So
right. And they did at the last clusterfuck, they did have some interactions, and they actually looked pretty good. So I haven't seen either too much, to be honest, but I don't know. It's very difficult for me to like see having two pretty green wrestlers just being on a show where the wrestlers are always left to their own devices and sometimes can, for better, for worse. I don't know how it's going to work out, but maybe they'll kind of just go in there and be like, all right, we're going to show everybody, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
I mean, if I were them, or at least I was kind of involved in that match, I would definitely tell these two. I mean, this is a huge. I mean, you're going to be a story no matter what because you're literally like 16 and 17 years old or whatever. I mean, I would have those. I would go out. I'd be doing it right now. I'd be planning our match. I don't maybe not do it the move for move thing. Maybe you don't have to do Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage style move for move. But I would really be just like, hey, let's like absolutely make sure. Don't show up to the arena and go, hey, what do you want to do? You know what I mean? Like they should have this planned out, ready to go. There should be people in their ear. There should be people kind of getting involved because this could present a huge opportunity for these two as kind of the up and coming stars of the industry. No matter what you think of them, like a great WrestleMania weekend match. I mean, then they're pretty much set for a lot of years after that. So I would, if I'm them, I'm really sitting down and trying to make sure we plan out a great match and don't just show up to the arena and try to figure it out or figure it out in the ring or whatever. Try to maybe get things going a little bit earlier there.
No. One other thing with it, I'm not saying this is a prediction. However, for the 24-hour GCW show in January, Starboy Charlie was used as a decoy for a Ricky Chain Page title match on the last night. Where instead it was Blake Christian's final farewell. So I'm not saying that this is a decoy match, but maybe there's a slight possibility that it could be a decoy. I don't know, but Starboy Charlie specifically was a decoy before, so I don't know. Could be.
Trying to ruin the fun already. No, it's fine. We'll see. I know. Anyway, some other matches here. This one on paper, man, that could be really hit or miss. It could either be really, really good or really, really bad, depending on these two people, because they're very polarizing folks in indie wrestling these days, and sometimes I like their matches and sometimes I don't. But Leo Rush versus Jordan Oliver. And Lio Rush is a person, obviously Lio Rush, tremendous talent, but there are times where, to me, he can kind of come in and be a little too, I don't know, the style doesn't always kind of work for me. And Jordan Oliver is somebody that's really hit or miss, where sometimes I really, really like what I see out of him, and sometimes I really don't love what I see out of him at all. Like, at all. I think he's terrible sometimes, but there's enough potential there where I look at that match and I go, okay, this could be pretty good, but I could also see it being, Lio Rush in side headlocks for 20 minutes playing the main roster, WWE guy versus Jordan. I don't know. I have no real concrete expectations about this match. Where are you with Lio Rush and Jordan Oliver?
So I don't know if you saw, but they did a video a few days ago, advertising for this match. And if you weren't sure before, Leo Hart is going to be Blackheart Leo Rush for this.
Well, so, okay. Well, then it's on the side of, I don't think I'm going to like this, but we'll see.
Yeah. So and if you haven't seen Blackheart Leo Rush, it's kind of his like NXT version of Leo Rush, like the kind of dark character. He was doing it before he left. It was a CZW gimmick. He left, and now he's kind of his own devices, especially in GCW. He's doing it again with it's actually a cool entrance with a black and white entrance, and they have like a contortionist come out with him and stuff, and it's really cool. But then kind of once the match starts, it's kind of slow and over dramatic sometimes and stuff. And the Blake Christian matches were, I wasn't that big of a fan of those. So
yeah, I'm right with you.
So yeah, like I don't know. It's a big spot for Jordan Oliver, and he's always a guy where I always think that he's close to like getting it all together, but it's never quite there yet. So I hope that like this is the type of match he can do it with, but I'm just not sure Lio Rush as the Blackheart is the right gimmick for it. Like last year, he was going to be in a multi-man tag against Jurassic Express. And like that would have probably been a really good match for Jordan Oliver at WrestleMania weekend. And now this one's bigger for him, but I just don't know how it's going to go.
I'll move on to what is surely to be a hardcore, brutal death match here. Atticus Cogar versus Masada, a name that I have not seen or seen Masada in quite a while. What can I expect from Masada in 2021? So
he was in the Nick Gage Invitational last fall. I was going to say November. I think it was September. He did go pretty far. I think he even went to the final, which I believe, I'm just going off of memory here. You can read my review on Voice of Wrestling if you want specifics.
There you go, my boy.
I think that he got hurt in that last match, and it was cut early. I can't even remember I'm trying to think who he lost to, but it was hurt. He was hurt. He looked all right. He's kind of typical old deathmatch guy. Doesn't bump around that much, but does do crazy stuff. He does have an aura as a deathmatch guy. So I think that putting a younger psycho like Atticus Cogar against him WrestleMania weekend is a good move. Cogar is really crazy. He just doesn't have any fear, and he'll do whatever. So if Masada works with him a bit and doesn't just swallow him up, this could be a really good, big, like high-profile death match because Cogar will absolutely be game.
Then we move on to the top two matches as of this recording here. Joey Janela versus Chris Dickinson and Ricky Shane Page versus Nick Gage. We'll start with Joey Janela and Chris Dickinson. As you said, past Joey Janela spring breaks have often been, Joey Janela dream matches, a Ricky Morton, a great Sasuke, Amari Jannetty, those sort of types of matches. This is just kind of Joey Janela versus one of the top indie guys in Chris Dickinson. Yeah. So a little bit different, but yeah, it has the potential to be really damn good.
Right. And Dickinson has turned into a major GCW guy. He's not just somebody who's coming in. He's a real part of the roster, is on a lot of the shows, and is kind of part of the I'm part of the real infrastructure. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank on what I want to say, but and he did turn on Janela at their last show, so during the Ricky Shane Page match. So there's some backstory here. And it's two of the real aces of the promotion. So I think that they're both going to really try hard in this, and they should mesh together pretty well. So it's not like a spectacle Janela match, but I think that maybe, especially with how his career is going right now, I think that this is one where he can kind of just strap in, take a step back a little bit and just kind of get back to the basics a bit and just have a really good match against one of the real aces on the indies.
Yeah, and I think that's important for Joey Janela too. I'm glad you bring that up because, you know, so often we've, you know, at prior spring breaks, like we're saying, they're kind of fun little matches, and it's him kind of, you know, having to try to, you know, carry the load of an older guy that maybe can't go as much anymore. They're a little bit over the top, or they're a little bit fun. But, you know, what we've seen from Joey Janela, and obviously in AEW, is like it really seems like he's getting passed by a lot of people. It feels like he's kind of in this weird spot where, you know, once one of the best stars of the indies, one of the top stars of the indies, and now he just kind of feels like a small fish in a big pond. So I'm with you. It might be a great opportunity for him to go out there and be like, no, you know what? I'm still pretty damn good. I'm a great wrestler.
Right.
And I can go out there and have a really, really good 20-minute match with Chris Dickinson, or 25-minute match, or 30-minute, whatever it might be. But that's definitely one that I circle and say, okay, these guys are going to go out there and really work their ass off to try to make this really, really good.
And one other thing with this, and this is complete speculation on my end, I have no clue, but just the other day, Chris Dickinson debuted in Ring of Honor. I think debuted. I know that he appeared.
Yes, I think that would be his debut. I'm trying to remember if he ever had a shot. I don't think so, because he was an early Evolve guy, and then I don't know if he's ever actually had been in Ring of Honor ever before. That's a great question that I'm going to actively look up right now. So there we go.
Right. So I don't know if that plays into this match at all. So I don't know if what his future on the Indies is. I really don't know either way. He might stay, he might not. I have no idea, but I feel like since that was a big thing that just happened the other day, it has to at least be taken into consideration.
All right, 2015, January 2015, he appeared in a Ring of Honor event in Dayton, Ohio. So just a house show here versus Michael Elgin. He lost to Michael Elgin in 12 minutes and 56 seconds. And then they said,
there you go.
We're not bringing you back, kid. Learn how to work, kid. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, and that was established Chris Dickinson, but not Chris Dickinson.
Right, not the Chris Dickinson, but a Chris Dickinson. That was still pretty damn good. Not the skinny Evolve #1 guy, but you know,
somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between, yeah, where he was pretty solid. And then our main event here, which you've kind of alluded to a little bit here, but for people that don't know, Ricky Shane Page versus Nick Gage. I mean, this is a feud, 2-3 years in the making, basically?
It's actually a lot longer than you would even think. It's 2 or 3 years in GCW as a real feud, but really the seeds are planted like when Nick Gage came back the second time and was back for good. Ricky Shane Page was in CZW and was one of the main guys in CZW. And this was when he was kind of smiling. Ricky Shane Page with the varsity jacket, but would still, you know, major deathmatch guy, would do all sorts of crazy stuff. And at Cage of Death, I want to say 2017, but years are meaningless at this point. I think it was 2017. Ricky Shane Page won the Cage of Death. And after that, Nick Gage, this was right when the CZW and GCW were really going back and forth kind of between the fans. It wasn't a real feud, but GCW was alluding to CZW a whole lot. And after the match ended, Nick Gage and Brett Lauderdale stormed the ring. Not as part of the show. They actually just stormed the ring. And it was pretty crazy. I was in the building, and all of a sudden I turn around and Nick Gage is there. And DJ Hyde came into the ring, and it was almost a real fight. They cut it off of the DVD. They didn't show it. It was taken down from YouTube, so it was never used like as a storyline going forward, which didn't really ever make sense to me because it was money. But so yeah, Ricky Shane Page was the champ and was kind of overshadowed by Nick Gage there. He still wasn't a GCW guy for a few years. After that, Gage won actually, it was right before that maybe that Gage won the GCW belt. But he held it for 2 years, 700-something days. He was the GCW champion, the face of GCW. People think about Joey Janela as like because of spring break, but really Gage was the guy. Every show was kind of built around him. If not every show, almost every show. And then Ricky Shane Page finally debuts in GCW, and he has he's much more of a dickhead. Nobody's supposed to like him, complete heel. Steals Nick Gage's belt pretty early on. You know, says Nick Gage is ducking him, whatever. And so finally there was a show, I think 2019, where RSP finally said that he would give the belt back. He just wanted a title shot whenever. Gage agreed. The main event was AJ Gray versus Nick Gage. AJ Gray actually beat Nick Gage for the belt with help from RSP's cronies. After the match, RSP comes out, challenges AJ Gray wins it right there, and now he has the champ and starts ducking Nick Gage. So that's really when the feud starts to get very, very hot. A few months later, they have a match at Run Ricky Run in New Jersey at GCW, and it's the crowd. It's a packed show. I was at this one. It was a packed show. The match was really crazy, big spots. Gage was killing himself. It was just major. There was a lot of run-ins from 440, Ricochet and Page's crew, and it had some turns, some ups and downs, and finally RSP beat Nick Gage, not really cleanly, but he still won. When he was leaving, people were actually trying to fight him. Like, I'm not like, oh, people were yelling at him. Like, he was almost getting in fights as he was leaving. Like, it was, when you hear about the old type of riots, I'm not saying it was exactly like that, but it was absolutely the closest thing that I could ever think of to seeing like that.
Yeah, there's legit people that do not, like, there's fans that buy tickets and think this guy fucking sucks and hate him. Like, It's not like, a fake, boo, there are literally people there that think he's a pile of shit and would, you said, would not mind taking a punch at him, which is fantastic in 2021 to get that level of heat. So
the ring was just, tons of garbage was just thrown right into the ring. It was just a really crazy atmosphere. And so this was February 2020. And of course, weeks later, COVID hit. So I don't know if they were going to do the rematch at WrestleMania last year. It seems obvious that they would have, but at the same time, they easily could have done another big show in New Jersey and done it there. I don't know. But regardless, it didn't happen. And then so finally in the summer, when GCW, they did a kind of a soft start with a show or two in Indiana, but really their kind of reboot weekend was in July in New Jersey on the boardwalk. And Nick Gage was in the first match. First night, he challenges, I think it was 440 guys. I'm drawing a blank. But on the next night, he says, hey, if I win, whoever wins this match gets a title shot. Of course, there was an afternoon show before that second show, and Nick Gage blew out his Achilles. I think it was his Achilles.
Yeah, it was Achilles, yeah.
So he blew out his Achilles, and that just kind of ruined everything. So Schlack had a handicap match, but Nick Gage came back and got the pin. He just limped in. He could barely walk, but he still got the pin just so they could, keep the story going. But then since then, he's been hurt. So this is really, it's kind of bummed me out a lot because this was really one of the only few well-booked feuds really on the indies. Especially in GCW, one of the major complaints is how they handled their stories. This was really the only one that they've really tried. And stuff keeps happening. A global pandemic, Nick Gage injury. So finally, we're having the blow off here. And I'm not going to lie, I would have been more excited for it last year. I'm still really excited for it, but it's just not where it was before. But, on a weird WrestleMania weekend when nobody really knows what's going to happen or what the atmosphere is going to be like or what it's going to be like. But still, this match has been years making, so I'm really excited for it. I think they're going to go really over the top with just culminating years of GCW storylines. Like everything from the company, I think, is going to kind of convalesce into this match. There's probably going to be a lot of interference, lots of big spots. It's probably going to be long, I would expect. I don't know. It kind of depends on if this is going to be if they're going to do this again. I don't know if they're going to do a Cage of Death or something. I could also see that happening at some point because they haven't announced anything like that for this one. But regardless, it's going to feel pretty big, and there's going to be a lot of moving pieces, I think, to it.
Yeah, and I think there's actually a little bit of benefit to me in this match, and I hate to say that, like, I'm not happy that Nick Gage got injured, but I'm kind of glad that this is kind of that first moment that he's come back, that they can kind of build it all up for this. But I'm absolutely with you. I think this is a good opportunity to have like a really, really, really cool match. But when you think about the business of this is a match you can definitely bring back later in the year like you said, Cage of Death, some other circumstances you can have. I would not end this feud here, but I would have it be an all out, gigantic brawl. Like, those two guys go out there and absolutely kill each other and do all that sort of stuff. So I think there's a lot of potential for this to be a lot of fun. And yeah, you might need to know the history of the story a little bit, and hopefully the commentators do a good job. And I don't know what video production obviously they're going to have here, but it's a pretty easy story to tell, and you kind of just told it there in about 5-10 minutes or whatever. But I would hope that they would do the same too, because I hope if you watch this with no context and it's just Nick Gage versus Ricky Shane Page, you might think, yeah, whatever. But yeah, like you laid it out there. I mean, this is decades. It's essentially in the making, and at least 2 or 3 years is like legitimately the best story being told on the Indies, or one of the few stories being told on the Indies, especially in a the Indies where that just doesn't happen anymore. There's just very, very lack of long-term stories told, and this one's been told to perfection for 2-3 years now, and then even longer if you want to, add in the other stuff there. As far as Nick Gage, though, he has not wrestled, correct me if I'm wrong, since the Achilles, right? This would be his return match, technically?
He just came back at their last show in March. So, not wrestling, just came back.
Right, and so there's a little bit of a worry there, but it's also Nick Gage, and like he doesn't have to run or really too much, you know what I mean? So it's like, I assume he will be fine. I'm assuming he's going to be, good to go, but there is that little bit of worry there that, having not had any matches before this, that hopefully, he's in good enough shape or whatnot. But it's also Nick Cage, and it's like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, can he whip a weapon? Can he hit a light tube? Then sure, he's fine.
Yeah. On one hand, I want to say that I think that for this match he wouldn't come back unless he was ready. But on the other hand, I feel like he's been fiending for it. So I don't know at all.
I mean, it's Nick Gage, so I mean, as long as he can come down and call somebody a pussy and everybody cheers for him, it's pretty much you're already like 75% of the way there. So you know what I mean, the rest is kind of dressing after that.
Yeah, and really all Ricky Shane Page has to do is just, I mean, they're going to kill each other, and
they're just going to bleed all over each other like fucking crazy. Yeah, for sure.
But even before that, Ricky Shane Page doesn't have to do anything. He just has to walk around, and people will absolutely be despising him. So it's from a character standpoint, it's an easy match. Nobody likes Ricky Shane Page. Everybody loves Nick Gage. So that's in their favor already. So we'll just see if they can, how it all goes. There's a lot of pieces of this match. Like there's like feud stuff, real stuff, injuries, meta stuff. Like there's all sorts of stuff that is kind of built into this. And I really have no idea really what to expect.
So that is Spring Break number 5, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time from the Cuban Club in Ybor City, Ybor City, right? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Ybor City.
Ybor City, whatever. That's fine. We'll go with that. Streaming on Fight as well. Tickets are available if you are going to be in the area for that. I should notice that is on Friday, April 9th as well. So Friday, April 9th. At 8 p.m. That's kind of I would say the main event of that week. You're up against ICW No Holds Barred, which is a pretty fun show on paper. But yeah, this should be, if you're watching WrestleMania weekend stuff, 8 p.m. You should probably just drop everything and check this show out for sure. Unless GCW We Run This Town is really doing it. If Timmy Lou Retton versus Mr. Grimm really kind of pulls you away, then maybe. But I would probably go with Spring Break 5 on that night. So let's get into
screen.
Yeah, let's true. Yeah, their picture-in-picture exists for a reason. But let's go to the next day here, Saturday, April 10th. This show is at 3 p.m., which is a little aggressive for a show called Planet Death at 3 p.m. on a Saturday here. Also from the Cuban Club, also streaming on Fight TV. This is the Alex Colon produce show from the weekend. It is, as of right now, on its own on Saturday. Tony Deppen's BierHaus starts at 12. But this is so far kind of on its own. Beyond Wrestling is going to be at 4 p.m., so we'll cut into a little bit of Beyond Wrestling. But as far as Planet Death, what can we sort of expect before we kind of get into the matches that are announced right now? What do we know about this show, and what's kind of the background of Planet Death or Alex Colon produce shows? Because I believe this is the first he's ever, quote-unquote, Alex Colon's produced show?
I can't... They had a show, they had a block like this at the 24-hour show. I can't remember if Alex Colon branded it or not. I would assume that he did, but I can't remember. But they did have a block at 1 or 2 in the morning of deathmatch stuff, which honestly, the fact that this is taking place at 3 in the afternoon and not 12 o'clock at night is kind of, I think they dropped the ball in this. This is like a late night grimy type of show.
Right, it's called Planet Death, and it's like 3 p.m. It'll be like light out. Like I don't want Planet Death at 3. Yeah, like that was one of my favorite parts of the 24-hour show. Is I thought they did a really good job of having like your wrestling during the day, but then at like 1 a.m. it was like, all right, here we go. And it was just like 5 straight hours of death matches or whatever, and that to me that was kind of appealing. That was kind of cool. To see that. So I'm right with you. Yeah, I would have put this one definitely somewhere in the midnight or whatever. You got No Peace Underground, Shallow Graves. That's going to obviously be probably a little, but yeah, there's no reason not to put this up at, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., somewhere around that time. But anyway, 3 p.m., Planet Death from the Cuban Club, of course, on Saturday. We know some of the matches as of this recording. Obviously, we're hoping a few more things do get announced. The most notable one, and we won't get into details about this because we're assuming, hopefully, that Alex Colon will have a match on Alex Colon Produce, right. But unfortunately, as of this recording, we do not know that match. That could either be really, really good news or potentially bad news. And I guess we'll probably hopefully find out by the time you guys listen to this. So
yeah, and going back to about the show and Planet Death and stuff, Alex Colon is really, for my money, the best American deathmatch wrestler, without a doubt. Every time, for years, he's kind of been the guy in GCW, in CZW too, but especially in GCW, that they've relied on, where like if they have somebody coming in, an international guy, a new guy they want to put over, whatever, they put him in there with Alex Colon because they know he's going to be the guy to get the best match out of him. I mean, Nick Gage has the more of the reputation as the deathmatch GCW guy, even though sometimes he does it and sometimes he's not really like that. But Alex Colon is like the real deal, actual psycho deathmatch guy who's just delivers every single time. So it's very cool that they're giving him his own show and that he's getting his due a little bit for it, because I really do think that he deserves it. He's just incredible at the style. Like he's one of those guys where you always talk about where he's a solid, good wrestler anyway, and then can incorporate death matches into that. And so it's not just I'm going to hit you with this and then you're going to hit me with this. He has a lot more to it than that. So yeah, I really hope that he's on this show. I hope that it's not an injury or something. I really think that he hasn't really been on like the GCW WrestleMania weekend shows before. So I'm really hoping that this time he's on it and can really shine. But yeah, so hopefully he's there.
Absolutely. No, and I'm right with you. I think, I don't consider myself kind of a deathmatch expert, but having gone to a few GCW shows and watching a pretty decent amount of GCW and deathmatch wrestling over the last few years, he is absolutely one.
Deathmatch Rich.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I did. It's a great live experience if you've never gone. It is something else. That first moment where you realize, oh my God, I'm watching a deathmatch show is pretty awesome. And it starts to wear on you about 2-3 hours in. You're like, all right, I think I kind of get the whole idea here, right. But it is something else to be sure. But no, Alex Colon to me has always stood out. And he reminds me a lot of, Takeda, Masashi Takeda from Japan, in the sense that I've always said, he's a good wrestler who also excels at death matches. Like Alex Colon, it's not just like you said, a guy who walks in and hits you with shit. The impact that he hits you with shit. The amount of stuff, he bounces off the ropes. There's enough there that's like, oh, this guy's like actually like a pretty decent athlete and pretty decent pro wrestler, but then he mixes it in with, like you said, being an absolute psychopath, which is exactly what you need to be great. But no, I'm right with you. He's a guy I will never skip an Alex Colon death match. They almost always deliver of what I've seen over the last few years.
And you mentioned Takeda. In Chicago a few years ago, they had a match in which there was a actual tree branch brought into the ring, and it was one of the coolest spots of all time.
Right. Oh yeah. So, that was awesome. That was something to behold for sure. But as far as Planet Death right now, we do know on the show, we know Jimmy Lloyd and the very dangerous TBA is going to be facing G-Raver and the very dangerous TBA. So we'll skip that because obviously as of this recording, we do not know who the TBAs, the question marks are.
There has really been a G-Raver versus Jimmy feud in GCW for a while. Before G-Raver got hurt, and then especially after when he's come back, they've kind of been together. So this is a continuation of that.
We have Madman Pondo, a name from the past here, versus Matthew Justice. What can we expect from Madman Pondo and Matthew Justice?
Yeah, Pondo shows up once or twice a year on kind of like the bigger deathmatch shows. And he just he's older now, but he has his spots. Like he'll have the stop sign with a bowling ball and that type of stuff. And he still like knows how to structure a good match. and a good death match. So this will be like pretty fun, I think, from that perspective. And Matthew Justice loves taking unprotected chair shots.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Where that's pretty much his gimmick. Like it's his gimmick is that he'll take unprotected chair shots. So, I expect that this will probably be a pretty fun, pretty basic match. Kind of go through the motions. I don't mean that in a negative way, but just kind of like, you know what you're getting from it, and it'll be good.
Otherwise, match that I'm not sure. Maybe you can sell me on this one here. Schlack versus Nolan Edward. So Nolan Edward I've seen, and I do enjoy. Schlack, there's times where I've enjoyed Schlack, but not a lot in the recent years. What can we expect from Schlack versus Nolan Edward?
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, sometimes Schlack has really been great, and sometimes he just kind of, I don't know, he's not as good as I want him to be. So I just kind of expect this to be another pretty straightforward match. To be honest, I don't even know how much Nolan Edwards I've seen, so you maybe have seen more of him than me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know that I see him necessarily in this role as much. Like, he seemed to me, like, of what I've seen of him, just kind of a little bit more of a straight wrestler, or a little bit more of kind of an early, like a little small, kind of like a small scale deathmatch guy. Like, not I use Matthew Justice in that sense. So, like, Matthew Justice is going to go out there and bleed buckets. Like you said, his thing is, just hit me in the head with the chair as hard as you can or whatever, but he's not going to, like, bleed buckets like these other guys. But in a match with Schlack, you kind of have to, right? Like, that's kind of the gimmick, is you can't just go in there and just like work. It's not a match. Like, it's a Schlack match. So,
and I do know that he's been in some death matches recently, but I don't think that I've seen them. So I'm curious. It's always, especially with how things are these days, whenever there's new guys that are coming in, I'm really excited to see them, because, death matches aren't necessarily the most in vogue thing. They are more now than they were a few years ago, but still, like, it's harder to find guys who actually want to do them. So whenever there's somebody new, I'm kind of intrigued.
Absolutely. And a guy who recently just kind of got into the deathmatch game here and really started to embrace it here. AJ Gray versus Akira is our apparently our semi-main event here. But AJ Gray is a guy who's kind of dabbled in it a little bit, and then I guess he seems to enjoy it because he's back.
Yes. He was in Nick Gage Invitational a little bit as well. And I mean, he's pretty good in the death matches stuff. He's done them a few times, so this is another match that should be pretty good. And while you're saying that, I actually just remembered that we did the TBAs, and it actually has been announced.
Oh, there you go. Well, you can break this news here on this show.
And I'm trying
a few weeks later. So yeah, go ahead.
So it is. Sorry, this is terrible. So here it is. It is. Jimmy Lloyd and Jason Gorey, who I'm not familiar with Jason Gorey.
I don't know the name either.
Versus G. Raver and Brandon Kirk. And Brandon Kirk and Jimmy Lloyd actually do have a lot of history, especially in CZW. They've done I think it was a Cage of Death, but they kind of came up around the same time with each other, and they were kind of linked together. So there actually is a lot of backstory between Jimmy and both of his opponents, G. Raver and Brendan Kirk. So Kirk hasn't been in GCW as much over the past few years, but there's a lot there. So could be a pretty good match. Could be. It's as of now, especially with what we've talked about, it's definitely the showcase match on the show. So they could kind of go big with it and try to make it a very big type of violent and dramatic match.
Absolutely. And then our presumably our main event here, but obviously, TBA with Alex Colon there, who I imagine hopefully will be in the main event of his own produce show. Because I mean, hey, if we've learned nothing from Japan or America, if you're going to produce the show, you got to put yourself in the top bill, man. You got a main event. That's the whole point of doing it. But what we know right now, Eric Ryan versus Masada, again, our second Masada match that we've talked about here. And Eric Ryan, an absolute psychopath as well in death matches, and this should be a bloodbath. I'd imagine between these two.
Eric Ryan loves to bleed, and he loves to stick people in the head with forks. And Masada loves to stick people in the head with skewers. So I expect a lot of that in this match. Eric Ryan, as you said, is just a complete maniac. There was a match a few years ago where I saw him versus Ciclope, I think. And they brought out a shopping cart full of light tubes. And the shopping cart wasn't there to bring light tubes towards the ring. it was there so that Eric Ryan would flip into it when it was fully standing up, full of light tubes on the outside. And it was truly one of the most dangerous looking things I've ever seen. And he survived it, and that was like 3 or 4 years ago. So
yeah, because if I remember correctly, wasn't he on the top rope and he got like flipped into the shopping cart? And by the way, shopping carts don't move. It was like it wasn't a working shopping cart. It was a shoot shopping cart. And yeah, I remember.
And and think about like the wheels of a shopping cart, how they're not really supposed to move.
No,
but if they do, it's really bad. It was that type of thing.
Yeah,
so it's just
brutal.
And I remember at one of the Tournament of Survival. He was in a light tube match, and I can't remember who he was against, but they were just breaking the light tubes over each other's heads so fast. It might have been Alex Colon, but I don't remember. And there's been a lot of I don't remember, terrible throughout this whole thing, terrible on my part. But they were just hitting each other with the light tubes so much that the people in the front row had their shoulders scrunched up as light tubes were just cascading over them. And I was looking I was elevated a little bit, and it looked like a waterfall just of light tubes.
Jesus, yeah.
So I'm expecting something similar to that.
Yeah, if you've never seen Eric Ryan before, get ready for this one. This is whatever. If you're a little squeamish about death matches, you might want to go in the other room for this one, because that absolute psychopath in Masada. Also a psychopath in his own right. So that is Planet Death, the Alex Colon Produce Show. Again, 3 p.m., the Cuban Club, streaming on Fight. We also have the GCW Collective bundle on Fight as well, if you want to watch all of these shows, both ones that we've talked about and everything else going on the Collective. So that is going to be Saturday, April 10th. And Kevin, before we depart here, is there another match or an event or anything on the WrestleMania weekend that we haven't talked about that you are looking forward to watching this year?
Not really.
Yeah, hey, it's the 2021 WrestleMania weekend. I'm with you. Yeah. I am vaccinated. I could go if I really wanted to. I'm fine.
I'm thinking about taking off work just because what else is there to do? I don't know if I actually will, but maybe the Friday just to sit down and watch it all, because how many weekends have there really been like this? But it's not. I mean, and even beyond all sorts of flaws with the indies and stuff, just with the way the world is, it's just really hard to really set and be excited about anything. So, especially this year with WrestleMania, it's bringing in people, it's big time matches, it's all sorts of stuff. And this year, all the stuff that makes WrestleMania weekend cool, you can't do. It is cool that the Luchador guys are there. So maybe I say that the Trent Acid Cup looks pretty interesting.
It does,
and I kind of want to watch that. So that's probably, other than the Gage RSP match, that's probably what I'm most intrigued for, because that could be really good. But otherwise, the big things like WrestleMania and NXT, those don't look cool at all. And then who even knows what a lot of the shows are. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, I think in all things considered, I think a lot of the companies, I think, brought a pretty decent lineup, as good a lineup as they can. I mean, all things considered, this blows away obviously the September Collective weekend, and it really blows away a lot of the other things that we've seen attempted over the last year, 12 months, 13 months or whatever. It's just, I'm with you. It's just even despite all these best efforts, despite kind of some of the issues with the indies, it's there's just a little bit missing that makes it super, super special. But there's enough in there that I think I'm going to enjoy the weekend all in all. And there's so many different options. And I think the inclusion of IWTV, I think, really, really does help as well. There's some stuff that I'm really excited to see from those guys.
And getting the Mexican indie luchadors is a real victory. So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
But even last year, you go from having Cavanagh and June Kasai, and you can't have guys like that this year. So it's just kind of on one hand, it's good that people are left to their own devices, but still, it's some of it's gone. But that means that next year, or whenever, it's going to be crazy. So we can all look forward to that.
Yeah, 2022. We'll all hopefully be there, and we all will enjoy it so much. So, Kevin, thank you so much for doing this. Again, you can follow Kevin on Twitter at Stan__Hansen. You can follow. Your Instagram is still pretty active, right? As well, the Pro Hate one.
Yeah, I'm on there sometimes. I need to do it more, but it's called Puro Hate. It's got a lot of old Japanese wrestling pictures. And even if I don't post new stuff, there's got a lot of old cool stuff on there.
Yeah, so you can go back and check that out. Yeah.
I haven't done it in a while because it's a little bit of a pain to scan everything, but I need to because those magazines are truly so cool.
They really are, yeah. So that'll be the hopefully I'll inspire you to sit down and do it. But that's at on Instagram, Puro __hate. as well for that. So, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us, and well, enjoy WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.
Thank you. Support for Voices of Wrestling's WrestleMania weekend previews is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology development to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide, and we have an exclusive offer for Voices of Wrestling WrestleMania weekend listeners, 20% off plus free shipping with the code FLAGSHIP at manscaped.com. Again, 20% off plus free shipping with the code FLAGSHIP at manscaped.com. Manscaped has created the best ball hair trimmer ever, the Lawnmower 3.0. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. In addition, this trimmer comes with an LED light for a more precise shave and is also waterproof. My favorite aspect of this entire thing, to make your shower shave clean and easy. And the Lawnmower 3.0 comes in their brand new Perfect Package 3.0, which comes with everything you need to keep trimmed, cut-free, and smelling nice down there. The Perfect Package 3.0 includes the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant and moisturizer, as well as the Crop Reviver. This product, along with the Crop Preserver, will keep your balls from sweating, smelling, or sticking. Manscaped also throws in 2 additional gifts to this perfect package: a pair of high-performance Manscaped boxer briefs that'll keep your junk feeling fresh all day, as well as a travel bag to store all of your grooming goodies. So come on, guys. Let's trim that junk of yours. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code FLAGSHIP at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. Once again, 20% off plus free shipping with code FLAGSHIP at manscaped.com. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use promo code FLAGSHIP. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.